The seventh princess, Li Shuer, was brought to the Empress's palace immediately. When the Empress saw her, her tears couldn't stop flowing. Little seven. Anxiety spread all over Li Shuer's face, and when she saw the Empress sobbing, she hurriedly rushed up to help her up. "Mother, what happened? Stop crying. When I received your letters, it wasn't stated very clearly. What exactly happened? Why did royal brother suddenly get injured, to the extent of rupturing his meridians? In the South Yu Kingdom, who else would be able to hurt him?" The Empress choked and fighting back her tears. Receiving a silken handkerchief from the palace maid, she simply briefed though the happenings as she dabbed her face. "It's a long story. Till today, I still find it unbelievable. That day at the peach blossom banquet held by the Empress Dowager, the more Li Shuer heard, the more shock she received as her eyes grew exceedingly large till her eyeballs almost dropped out from its sockets. "Mother, you say it once again? Who did you say injured royal brother?" The Empress was unable to suppress her hatred. "Who else? It's the second prince that the hussy had given birth to, Li Moying." Li Shuer was still in a state of shock as she blinked her eyes. She felt that she must have misheard somewhere along the line. "Mother, you are saying, second brother, injured royal brother? Am I hearing things? How can this be possible? Second brother had always been weak from birth. Not only can he not cultivate, what's more, wasn't he about to lose his life any time? Where on earth would he have such abilities to injure royal brother who was in the defensive profound realm, 7th stage? The Empress clenched her teeth as she spoke. "He's no wastrel. He had all of us completely fooled. In actuality, his cultivation was so high that not only did he injure your royal brother, even the imperial tutor was inflicted serious damage. He had rested for half a month, and it was only these few days that he recovered slightly." How could this be? I must still be dreaming? Seventh princess pinched herself hard on her thigh and immediately shrieked in pain. "I'm not in a dream. Don't tell me this is for real." The Empress responded, "I too wish that this is not real. But alas, this matter cannot be truer than a pearl. Your royal brother is now severely injured. Not only is the medical institute not able to cure him, even the divine doctors from our neighboring countries whom I had painstakingly invited are able to cure him." Saying to this point, the Empress started to be agitated and grab hard on the Shuer's arm. "Shuer, your royal brother said if we brought you back here, perhaps you will have a way to save him. Is this true? Do you really have a way? Your royal brother is now depending on you. If you too do not have a way to save him, then he's really a goner." Li Shuer frowned and patted the Empress's hands. "Mother, please don't fret. Your daughter will not leave my royal brother like this. But you mentioned that second brother had suddenly become a top-notch pugilist and even injured royal brother and imperial tutor. This is preposterous. Sigh, you little ass. It's better that you take a look at your royal brother with your own eyes. By then, you will realize what had happened." Li Shuer followed the Empress into the sleeping chambers behind. Upon opening the door, a piercing alcoholic smell whiffed out. Mixing with a strange sourish smell, the odor was unbearable. Li Shuer subconsciously covered her nose and frowned. The Empress used her hanky to cover her mouth and said, "Majuan, ew, why have you started drinking again? You can also listen on." The room fell silent. No one answered. The Empress sighed inwardly. Her feelings weighted down. Ever since Li Moying had severed all the meridians in his body, the Crown Prince's cultivation had dropped from heavens to hell, and he was totally unable to cultivate at all. The minute he tried to summon his chi, all the meridians that were severed summoned excruciating pain to the extent of fainting of the spot. Because of this, the Emperor and Empress had sourced for all the renowned doctors. However, everyone's conclusion were the same. With such a serious injury, they would need the bone vessel replenishment pill, a 5th-grade pill, which could extend and replenish the arteries and veins before he could be cured. And within 3 months, if they were unable to find this bone vessel replenishment pill, he would be deemed paralyzed forever. Not even considering the ability to cultivate, he might even be paralyzed and confined to the bed for the rest of his life. Even though this pill was not expensive, it was extremely rare. The Empress had sent her aides to surrounding countries to search for this pill, and till today, she had yet to be able to find it. In the end, she could only send someone to the Sky Cloud City to see if they had any other avenues. The problem was the entire journey to and fro would take at least 2 months, and they might not be able to find the pill. When the Crown Prince found out about this, he was crushed entirely. He would drink continuously every day while lying on the bed and making himself completely drunk, using alcohol as an avenue to escape the reality of becoming paralyzed. As a mother, the Empress felt indescribable pain tearing at her heart when she saw the Crown Prince in this state. Thinking back to the days when the Crown Prince was full of mettle and was the #1 genius of the South U Kingdom, his resolutely powerful prince had always been held to the skies. All the ladies in the country thought it would be the ultimate glory to be able to be married to him. But now, not only was he rejected by Huang Yue, even the person whom he had always looked down upon stole his love away. What's more, Li Moying had not only stolen away his fiancée, he had easily defeated him as though he was crushing an ant in front of everyone. Besides that, he had viciously maimed him. Not only did the Crown Prince need to suffer from the pain and torture from his injuries, the thing that he could not stand was his pride and face was entirely stepped upon by Li Moying. Now, who would still remember him, Li Majuan? In the entire South U Kingdom, it was now widely known that Prince Yu Wang's elegant pose during the Peach Blossom Banquet, Prince Yu Wang's absolute power and handsome looks, and his overbearing love and fury for a beautiful woman. What about Li Majuan? Although the emperor had yet to decree the imperial edict to depose the crown prince, but in everyone's eyes, he was no different from a dead person. The empress called out a few more times, and there was still no reply. Instead, there was only clear shattering sounds of wine flasks dropping onto the ground. She could only cry out, "Majuan, mother is coming in. Stop drinking. Take a look at who's coming in. It's little Seven. She's back. Haven't you been waiting for her return? Now that she's back, there's hope for you. So stop being despondent." What? Little Seven is finally back? A surprised and happy cheer echoed from the room. Li Shuer rushed into the bedside and looked at the crown prince, paralyzed on the bed with a disheartened expression as she unbelievably covered her mouth. This royal brother of hers had always been high-spirited, having an elegant and graceful carriage. He was also known as a handsome youth in the Celestial Light Academy. But now, he had this half-dead look as though he had already lost all hopes for the future. Even though she had heard the Empress saying this earlier, but to see it with her own eyes, the impact was much stronger by several folds. Within her heart, Li Shuer flew into a huge rage. You can also listen on. "Royal brother, how did you end up like this? What exactly happened?" Li Xuan's face was filled entirely with shock. Crown Prince stared at her, and speaking through his clenched teeth, every single word hissed out from the gaps in between his teeth. "Li Moying, it was entirely Li Moying's fault that I became like this. I must quickly recover and think of ways to kill him and grind his bones into ashes. Oh, that's right, there's another person, and that's by Ruoli, that slut. If not for her, I wouldn't have ended up in such a terrible state." Li Shuer stood dumbstruck. "By Ruoli? The person you're talking about is by Lu Feng's daughter, that trashy third miss at Valiant Marshall Manor? That's her." Crown Prince venomously hissed. "She's no trash at all, and she's now at Qi Profound Realm, 9 level. What's more, she had long been in cahoots with Li Moying, making me wear the green hat. That fickle woman." It was all the Crown Prince's own fault that he was the one who refused to admit the engagement initially, fully intending to marry by Ruo Qi instead. And this entire thing had nothing to do with Huang Yue at all, but Crown Prince would never think in this way. In his wishful thinking, he had chosen Huang Yue, but she had refused the marriage with him. To make matters worse, she had gotten herself engaged to his biggest foe, Li Moying. This was her betrayal to him. Li Xuan's face flashed hints of viciousness. Wasn't it just the Qi Profound Realm 9 level? What's so great about that? "Royal brother, don't worry. Just nice, I have here with me a bone vessel replenishment pill. It will be able to treat your meridians. As for those cheap sluts, whoever dares to go against us will only await a tragic end." Another night had passed. The sky was slowly breaking into dawn. A huge flying ship gradually descended on the wilderness of the South U Kingdom's outskirts. That scene was witnessed by the surrounding civilians and caused a huge commotion and many spectators to surround nearby. In a small country like the South U Kingdom, there had never been an appearance of a flying ship to the extent of not even hearing about it. Only seasoned practitioners had only seen a sketch of the flying ship from a painting and had never encountered the real deal. Even so, all the spectators only dared to see it from afar, not daring to go any closer. It was obvious that to be able to own a flying ship, it would naturally be some shocking, peerless expert. Who would dare to risk offending such a powerful person and go nearer to take a look? On the deck of the flying ship, Li Moying personally sent Huang Yueli down from the ship. The both of them walked alongside on the deck all the way to the ramp before they stopped. Both of them turned toward each other at the same timing and spoke out. After a moment of astonishment, Li Moying's lips curled upwards. The sharp blossom-shaped eyes showed a hint of gentleness. "What were you going to say?" Huang Yueli pursed her lips and said in a low tone, "Nothing, then I'm leaving now." Li Moying stared at her and said in a dissatisfied tone, "What? Are these really what you wanted to say?" Huang Yueli nodded, "Yup. Is there really nothing else?" Li Moying was extremely discontented, continued his unforgiving questioning. Huang Yueli looked at his arrogant expression and suddenly felt it was slightly comical. Such a cool and overbearing man. In front of others, he held an aloof and desolate look, but in front of her, he was actually very cute. Her heart softened and thinking that since it would be some time before they met again, so she put down her proud facade. You have to take note of your own safety. I know your power is very strong and you're not afraid of any danger, but it doesn't hurt to be more prudent. You never know when the ship will overturn in a moment of negligence. By then you'd have suffered a loss. You can also listen on. One more thing. Make sure you always carry the profound lunar spirit mirror on you. The wine that I fermented with the Saint Spring water, you must drink it every day. Although the effect is not that obvious now, but if you persevere, it would definitely be advantageous. Another thing is during the night of the full moon, you must never be alone. The pills that Divine Dr. Liu had refined, remember to take it on time. If the accident like what happened a few days ago happens again, it will make everyone worried about you, and your body is also not able to take the stress from this. Oh yes, any idea what happened to Li Lingchuan? Although he's a 6th-degree realm practitioner, even if he jumped from the flying ship, he should not die from it. He will definitely go and look for you. So you must take caution. Huang Yueli had only intended to bid him with one sentence. Take caution on everything. But who knew once she started, she suddenly worried about plenty of other things. So she started a brief about this and that, and unknowingly, she had said a bunch of stuff. Li Moying looked at her as his smile grew wider and wider. Sensing the man's gaze, Huang Yueli suddenly brought herself to a halt, looking very embarrassed. "All right, that's about it. I'll just stop here for now. Hey, why are you staring at me for? And you keep chuckling. What's so funny for you to keep laughing?" Li Moying couldn't stop himself from laughing out loud, but when he saw Huang Yueli's utterly discomfited look paired with her eyes rolling up, he gave out a stifled cough and finally stopped. "I was smiling because I thought you were just too lovely." Huang Yueli pouted her lips and ignored him. So Li Moying hurriedly explained himself. "It's true, Lear. I just discovered that you're actually very meticulous and virtuous. You had already thought of everything for me. In future, when we get married, you'd definitely be a thoughtful wife. I feel that I'm the luckiest man on earth. So happiness shot up to my head, and I was smiling all ears because of that. Lucky your big head. When did I agree to marry you?" Huang Yueli stomped her feet, feeling that her top of head was going to shoot out fumes very soon. Li Moying mumbled, "Didn't you? You were obviously admitting it in front of everyone else that you're my fiancé. That was just an advantageous ploy. How many times do you want me to repeat it?" Huang Yueli glared at him. Li Moying could only snub his nose and replied, all right, an advantageous ploy. He was plotting in his heart to turn a drama into reality. What's more, their engagement was not fake. Anyway, he should just register the fiancé status first before they actually went further. By the time Huang Yueli had accustomed to his presence, how would she be able to fly out of his palms in future? Upon seeing that he had admitted his mistake, Huang Yueli pursed her lips and said, as long as you don't sprout rubbish, then I'm really making a move now. Good. Before she could complete her sentence, Huang Yueli felt a pulling sensation from behind. Li Moying had pulled her into his embrace, and lowering his chin, he teased smilingly. Just going to say goodbye in this fashion? Lear, you seem to have forgotten something? What? Huang Yueli looked at the peerless appearance that had gathered in front of her, and felt slightly faint. Li Moying replied, when couples bid farewell, don't they always end with a goodbye kiss? Goodbye. Kiss. Huang Yueli suddenly retracted her thoughts and retorted, kiss what goodbye? I told you already, we're not a real coup. When he heard the words that he didn't like to hear, Li Moying lowered his head hastily and used his lips to stuff the words back into her mouth. However, this kiss only lasted briefly. Li Moying lowered his head. Their lips barely touched with a half-hearted attempt. The cool and sexy lips and a pair of delicate and tender pink lips had briefly touched each other and came apart. You can also listen on. This action disappeared in time. Huang Yueli was barely aware that she had been forcefully kissed again and had yet to express her displeasure, and it had all ended. Li Moying gently let her go and said, this is considered as bidding farewell. Shameless. Huang Yueli glared. Li Moying gave a perfunctory expression as he gave a demonic grin. On the handsome face showed signs of devilish glints which eluded indescribable sexiness. Huang Yueli puckered her lips and lowered her head. Li Moying released the arm that had restrained her, and in a low voice, he reminded, all right, it's late already. I shouldn't keep you here. Quickly go back and have a good rest. Wait for me. I'll definitely be back to look for you. Huang Yueli thought to herself that perhaps she might not stay in South Yu Kingdom for long. By the time Li Moying came to look for her, he might not be able to find her. But she didn't tell him her thoughts and simply nodded before she turned around and got descended from the stairs. If she cannot be found and the connection had been broken, perhaps it wasn't a bad thing after all. As Huang Yueli thought about this, her heart flashed an indescribable sense of disappointment. As she reached the last rung of steps, she couldn't help but to turn around to take another look at Li Moying. Li Moying raised his brow as he said, what's wrong? Can't bear to part with me? Huang Yueli shook her head. You're too narcissistic. I just wanted to ask, Brother Mo, what's up with him? She raised her finger and pointed towards Mo, who was standing nearby. Ever since she had started walking from the deck, Mo, had been following her footsteps. Initially, she thought Mo, was following Li Moying and didn't put it to heart. But she didn't expect that once she got off the ship, Mo, actually followed her. Li Moying explained, Mo, will follow you and be responsible for your safety. Otherwise, I'll be worried when I am not by your side. Huang Yueli was dumbstruck and felt touched in her heart. This man had really considered everything in her best interest, but there's no need. I'm in the South Yu Kingdom. What dangers could there possibly be? At most, it's just that crown prince and Bai Ruo Qi, those clumsy clowns. I can handle them alone. On the contrary, you're going to the sect, and who knows what dangers is lurking over there. Let Mo, stay with you instead. Li Moying shook his head. Listen to me. Let Mo, stay with you. All right, I have to continue with my journey. I'll make a move first. Saying that, the flying ship's stairs slowly retracted, and the ship slowly rose as it stayed afloat in the sky. He simply left Mo, on the ground. Huang Yueli cannot help but shook her head, knowing she was unable to reject him. This man was always like this. When he treats someone well, he would never allow any form of rejection, and the other party must accept his kindness. Besides, even if she refused, Mo, would still follow her in secret to fulfill Li Moying's order. She could only turn around and conveyed, Brother Mo, in this duration, I will have to trouble you again. And he lowered his head and in a respectful manner. To render my services for third miss is something that your subordinate should do. Huang Yueli nodded, and together, they walked towards the direction of the city. Hanging lowly among the clouds, the flying ship hovered in mid-air, in no hurry to fly away. Li Moying leaned against the pole, and as he watched that slender figure slowly walk far away until her shadow had completed disappeared into the city, before he raised his head and softly commanded, "Let's start on our journey." Huang Yueli entered the city and directly returned to the valiant martial manor. Inside the manor, lights lit up brightly, and outside the entrance of the manor, the traffic flowed unendingly, bustling with noise and excitement. There were many rich visitors, and in their arms were gifts of all sorts, delivering the gifts to the doorstep with an adulate expression. You can also listen on. Seeing the current situation, Huang Yueli's eyebrow was raised as a puzzled feeling came over her. Before she had gone to the Dark Moon Forest, she had already ordered by Lu Jing's entire family to move to the side manor and emptied the valiant martial manor. But because she had yet to move into her new home completely and the meeting time with Li Moying was up, she rushed to the Dark Moon Forest immediately and left only Kai Wei and the rest to oversee the moving of Bai Lu Jing. From the looks of this, the bustling scenario of the valiant martial manor, it was obvious that her words had fell on deaf ears. Huang Yueli was sneering icily in her heart as she entered the manor in huge strides along with Mo-E. However, the minute she entered the main gate, she was blocked by the crowd. The gatekeeper of the valiant martial manor was newly hired, and he did not recognize her. Seeing her appearing empty-handed, he immediately shouted in a high-pitched tone, "Hey, that little lass in front, halt. Do you know what place is this? This is the valiant martial manor. It's not a place where you can simply enter indiscriminately. Aren't you going to move aside?" Huang Yueli's lips hooked upwards coldly. "You're asking me to move aside? Do you know who I am? Who else can you be? Aren't you here to congratulate our Marquis on his birthday celebrations?" The gatekeeper scorned. "No matter which family's daughter you're from, in the eyes of our valiant martial manor, you're just an ordinary visitor. Do you know who our Marquis is? Marquis Bai's niece, Miss Bai Ruoqi, if Prince Yuang's fiancée. And what's more, she is in heavenly 6th grade talent." Huang Yueli almost laughed out. "You know who is Prince Yuang? You know the third miss of the Bai family?" The gatekeeper's gaze seemed to be looking at an idiot. "Why would I not know? Who doesn't know Prince Yuang is the most powerful talent in the entire kingdom's history since he was born? Even Bai Lufeng would not be able to surpass him. Besides that, Prince Yuang's looks are outstanding. His backing is powerful, and he is the emperor's favorite. He will replace the crown prince in time to come. TSK, TSK. Such an honorable Prince Yuang, paired with our manor's beautiful and outstanding third miss. It's a match made in heaven." Third miss had lost her parents since young, and it was our Marquis who had painstakingly brought her up. So the Marquis was equivalent to the third Miss's biological father. Now that third miss had become Prince Yuang's fiancée. Our Marquis is the future imperial uncle. Such an honorable standing. Who wouldn't want to win his favor? When Huang Yueli heard those words, she felt nauseated, totally disgusted to the extreme. How did Bai Lu Jing treat her during that year? He was simply pushing her to her deathbed. In order to obtain Bai Lu Feng's inheritance, he allowed his lady and Bai Ruoqi to torture her. If it wasn't for her lucky stars, she would have been dead long ago. With this, he had the cheek to claim that he was like his biological father, using her fame to enjoy the respect from everyone. This wishful daydream was very much pretty. Huang Yueli's face darkened and retorted, "Are you done talking? If you're done, move aside." The gatekeeper was used to be ostentatious and didn't know how to observe the expressions of other people. He totally missed the warning signs and continued to boast. I say, this lady, I can tell that you come from a well-to-do family, but why are you so insensible? Today is our Marquis's birthday, and all the visitors are here to send in their congratulatory messages and have all brought along valuable gifts. You came empty-handed, and you're not embarrassed to just come in like this? Huang Yueli slowly turned towards him, her glare icy cold. What? You're asking me about my gift. You can also listen on. Towards the icy cold expression in Huang Yueli's eyes, the gatekeeper suddenly sobered up. He finally realized that something was not right. This seemingly ordinary young lady seemed extremely complicated. SC couldn't be here to kiss up a fuss, right? Arg, this miss. The gatekeeper cannot help to take a step backwards as he wiped the sweat on his forehead. Huang Yueli laughed icily, and turning towards Mo, who was standing behind, she asked, "Where's the soaring heaven sword that I had refined previously?" Mo drew out a flexible sword from his realm ring and respectfully handed it over to Huang Yueli. "Third miss, please take a look." Before she entered the Dark Moon Forest, she had refined several profound weapons, with the consideration to distribute among Li Moying's bodyguards. Those extra ones would be auctioned off at the Thousand Treasure Pavilion. This flexible sword was gifted to Mo, precisely because this sword was not only pliable and tough, it was also long and slender with a silverish color, named Soaring Heavens, was a 4th grade upper grade armament. Huang Yueli swept her gaze over the flexible sword and asked the gatekeeper, "How is it? This gift is pretty good, right?" Although the gatekeeper was a snob and had not seen too much of the world, but this sword emitted a special feeling from the others. Just by looking at the appearance, even an ordinary person would be able to judge that this was an extremely high-grade quality, profound armament. As for the surrounding practitioners, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and everyone were secretly discussing where did a rich tycoon suddenly popped out to have delivered such a priceless treasure. The gatekeeper hurriedly replied, "Not bad, not bad. Miss is indeed generous." Huang Yueli's lips slightly curled as she turned her head towards Mo and said, "Reward him." The gatekeeper was dumbstruck, and an overwhelming delight rushed into him. Reward him? Did the lady mean to gift him such a valuable, flexible sword as a reward? What background did this lass come from to be such a spendthrift? Couldn't she tell that this sword was extremely valuable? This time he had really met a nobleman. Heaven actually gave him such a good opportunity. The gatekeeper was all smiles as he prepared to receive his reward. Suddenly a glint of light flashed past him, fast as lightning. He felt a throbbing pain on his head, as if his brain had been sliced into 2 halves, and immediately lost conscious. Amongst the crowd, the gatekeeper's body flew outwards into the valiant Marshal Manor's pavilion, directly into the main hall, and crashed heavily onto the ground. His face had a deep scar from the sword, all the way from the roof of his head passing his nose bridge, chin till his waist. Wherever the scar ran across, his flesh split apart and blood sprayed everywhere with his bones exposed. A terrified expression hung on the crowd's face as they looked at Mo. Mo's hand was still holding on to the flexible sword stained with blood, but his expression remained peaceful, as if he had just patted the dust off and not soberly injuring a person viciously. This method and this stance. Everyone gave a shudder and ran backwards in shock. Mo bowed to Huang Yueli and reported, "Third miss, I've rewarded him with a sword, but that guy didn't seem to have the fortune of accepting your reward." Huang Yueli laughed lightly. "Well executed. Although his fortune was bleak, we can still reward his master later on. It's all the same. Yes, your subordinate obeys third miss's orders." Saying that, a shuffling of footsteps can be heard from the direction of the main hall. Bai Lu Jing appeared head first, furiously berating, "Who dares to create havoc at the valiant Marshal Manor? Come out before me this instance." You can also listen on. Huang Yueli's back was still facing the main hall, so Bai Lu Jing had not recognized her at the first instance. Seeing that the opponent had not only injured the people in his residence, that person was totally ignoring him made Bai Lu Jing even more enraged. He heavily swept his sleeves, and in an enraged tone, he shouted, "What kind of place did you think the valiant Marshal Manor is? I think you must have a lot of guts to even dare to make a scene here. Men, take this fool down. Let's see who is more arrogant." Bai Lu Jing turned around, and upon his command, The guards in the manor responded by charging towards Huang Yue and Moe. As the person who was injured was a gatekeeper, who was a normal person with no cultivation, the manor's guards' confidence raised, believing that they were proud practitioners who had helmed in various battles. With their mountainous experience, to take down a petty thief who was causing the disturbance was surely as easy as frying up a small plate of appetizer. However, the truth was the exact opposite. As the guards rushed out, before they could even reach a distance of 100 meters, a silvery glint flashed past. Following that was a continuous thud, thud, thud sound. All the guards were, at the same time, flying towards the direction of the main hall. Moreover, every single one of them by lucky coincidence had fallen into the main hall, stacking nicely on top of each other, blocking the entire entrance. The remaining few were unable to fit in, so, as they crashed on top of the human pile, it subsequently fell out from the door. Similar to the gatekeeper earlier, right in the middle of their faces displayed a long, gaping wound which was inflicted by the soaring heaven's flexible sword. With their bloody faces along with the wound which revealed the whites of their bones, it looked extremely horrifying. There were quite a number of guests who had come for the celebratory event in the main hall, who were terrified by this scene. Shrill cries and screams could be heard constantly. At this moment, Huang Yue turned around and looked towards the direction of the door. Following that, she took a glance at Moe, and with an unpleasant look, she said, "I don't recall the order to reward them, right? Isn't it a waste to reward these garbage?" Moe immediately took a step backwards and replied with a guilty look, "Why? Yes, your subordinate was too nosy. Third miss, please punish me." Huang Yue waved her hand as she replied, "Sigh, forget it. Next time be more attentive." "Yes, your subordinate understands." Hearing the two of them conversing, the surrounding people reached a peak of silence. So the flexible sword stabbing was called as a reward. And not everyone had this privilege. This type of reward, who would dare and be able to accept it? Of course, what was more flabbergasting was that seemingly ordinary guard in black clothes held extreme power. Everyone present had heard that the guards at the Valiant Martial Manor were all experienced in various battles, and not many had dared to provoke them. In the end, so many people were sent flying by just one person, and they were powerlessly oppressed. In one single move, all the guards had been seriously injured. This was really terrifying, and to be able to use such a powerful practitioner as her guard. Who and what was this young lady's background? As the crowd looked at Huang Yue, a few were already able to recognize her. That is, the third miss of the Bai family. It's Bai Raoli. That's right, after what you mentioned, I also managed to recognize her. It's really her. Oh, it's her. No wonder she has such a powerful bodyguard. But why did she injure the Valiant Martial Manor's guards? Isn't the Marquis her uncle? A puzzled bystander inquired. The people next to him secretly stole a glance at Bai Qiu Jing and intentionally lowered his voice as he spoke. It's something that most people didn't know. It was said that Marquis was biased to his daughter, and in the past they had their share in bullying the 3rd Mississippi. So both parties were no different from enemies. You can also listen on. Huh, there's such a thing? I thought that the relationship between the Marquis and 3rd Miss was very close. If I had knew this earlier, I wouldn't have bothered to offer my birthday congratulations to that filthy old man. He only know how to put on airs. Who does he think he is? Once the crowd found out the truth, they were extremely vexed and felt they were being fooled. He made an prompt and immediate decision, turned around and left. Upon seeing him, the other remaining visitors suddenly woke up to reality. That's right. Wasn't our intention here to deliver the gifts just to please Prince Yuang? In the end, the flattery had fallen on the hooves of the horse. What would happen if Prince Yuang thinks that we are intentionally going against him? Let's hurry and leave. I'm going to. This sinister and deceitful cad, by Lu Jing, he actually misled us intentionally. If Prince Yuang were to blame us for this, I will definitely have no end with by Lu Jing. Exactly, that's right. As the crowd had agreed in unison, the gazes towards Bai Lu Jing held contempt and hatred, their face steely green as they turned and left. Before they left, many visitors had not forgotten to claim back their gifts which they had brought when they had registered at the entrance of the door. We cannot let that old fool surnamed by have any advantages. That's right, he cheated us to send in the gifts. He's simply too shameless. When Bai Lu Jing heard the discussions among the crowd, his chest felt surges of pain and his blood boiled, almost spitting out a mouthful of blood. These people were initially coming to please him. Each one of them were following him closely as if they were his grandsons. Besides the invaluable gifts, they were also blarneying him with compliments to win his favor. Bai Lu Jing was thinking in his mind that it was better left unsaid. He had never expected that once Huang Yueli appeared, everyone's attitudes had taken a 180-degree change, spurning him incessantly. Although he was feeling indignant in his heart, he could not reveal his emotions on his face, because the young lady standing at the entrance of Valiant Martial Manor was indeed his niece. Now, Huang Yueli was totally different when she was young. She had already broken out of her cocoon and transformed into a butterfly. She had flown to the skies and became someone whom he was not able to offend. Even if Prince Yuang had not turned up with her, in reality, who doesn't know the backing behind her is Prince Yuang. Besides that, at one glance, the bodyguard behind her had exceptional power. Just based on that bodyguard alone, it was enough to kill off everyone in the Valiant Martial Manor. Bai Lu Jing was feeling both angry and anxious, but he could only swallow this grievance down as he forcefully drew out a smile and with a respectful attitude, he greeted Huang Yueli. "My dear niece, you're finally back. Look at your travel-worn look. You must have suffered greatly while you were traveling outside the kingdom. Quickly come in. Let second uncle hold a welcoming dinner to welcome you back." Bai Lu Jing felt that he had already brought out his utmost patience. However, Huang Yueli didn't answer his questions, but silently casted an icy glance at him. That glance contained utter disdain and contempt, and anyone was able to tell that glance was as if it was directly towards a lowly servant. Bai Lu Jing held another air of indignance in his chest, almost cursing out loud. At that critical timing, when he thought of the shocking methods and outstanding innate talent this lass had shown, and the man backing her up, Bai Lu Jing managed to curb himself in time. As he clenched his teeth, his face expressed a smile which looked worse when he was crying. "Lier, don't stand on ceremony with second uncle. Quickly come in. This way, please. You can also listen on." Huang Yueli turned slightly as the sides of her lips curved upwards into a smile which didn't look like a smile. "Second uncle, I'm so sorry, but the gatekeeper told us that you are holding your birthday celebration today, and everyone who comes must present you with a gift. Unfortunately, I came back in a hurry today." Although Huang Yueli looked like she was smiling and the intonation she used was extremely courteous, but not only did Bai Lu Jing not show a sense of relief, instead the sweat beads on his forehead kept sprouting, as if he was in an adverse situation. He hurriedly cut into her words, "No problem, no problem. Lier, you're one of us. There's no need for any presents. Really, don't take the trouble. Second uncle knows the regards that you have for me, and I appreciate it very much." Huang Yueli laughed lightly. "How can we do that? To come empty-handed. If this rumor was spread out, other people would say that the daughter of the Martial Valiant Manor doesn't know her etiquette. What's more, I'd already informed the gatekeeper that I had prepared a gift. Uncle, please accept it." Bai Lu Jing's heart was pounding nonstop. If it was 1 month ago, he would probably believe that Huang Yueli had done out of goodwill. But today, he absolutely cannot believe such words. Since when did this lass become so kind-hearted? What kind of birthday gift will she give him? If she was really here to send her birthday congratulations, was there a need to injure those guards so severely? Those heavily injured guards were still crying out in pain, blocking the entrance of the main hall. Until now, unable to get up, Bai Lu Jing coughed dryly and said, "Lier, you're being too courteous. Don't mention it. This is something that I should do." Huang Yueli laughed without a care. "Moe, quickly pass that gift to my second uncle. He is a prosperous man. Whatever type of gift, he would be able to accept it." No need. There's really no need. Bai Lu Jing knew something was up and continued to shake his head as he rejected. However, it was all too late. From a moment that Huang Yuli stepped into the valiant martial manner, on seeing that he had yet to shift, she had already decided to give Bai Lu Jing and his family a lesson that they would not forget. This was to let them know that in front of her, if they continued to play this sort of two-faced petty games, what kind of price they would have to pay for it. Under the command of Huang Yuli, Mo Yi's flexible sword wobbled and a streak of light flashed towards Bai Lu Jing's direction. Bai Lu Jing was different from those guards. His cultivation wasn't bad at all, and his cultivation was currently at defensive profound Realm 9 level. In the South Yu Kingdom, he was considered as one of the top experts. As he saw the sword glint flashing over, he instinctively withdrew the sword which was hung around his waist to deter the attack. However, Mo Yi's speed was extremely fast, faster than what he had imagined. Bai Lu Jing's finger had yet to tuft the sword hilt when the flexible sword had heavily struck on his face. A streak of deep scar running from the top to the bottom, inflicting by the sword, had split his face deep into the bones, causing his face to be split into two parts. Following that, with a flick of Mo Yi's wrist, a third slash was drawn against Bai Lu Jing's face. Bai Lu Jing's face had already been reduced to a shape as his flesh split open and blood was spurting outwards, his face beyond recognition. There were shrilling screams from all around. Bai Lu Jing's entire body was trembling from the pain as his eyes were shrouded in a blood mist, unable to see clearly what was happening in front of him. He could barely make out a blurred figure slowly walking closer to him. Following, there was Huang Yuli's voice from the top of his head. "Second uncle, this huge gift that your niece had gifted, do you like it? If you feel it's not enough, I can return you twofold. You can also listen on." Bai Lu Jing's entire body turned cold, and he was trembling as he curled up into a ball on the ground, unable to speak a single word. He had never imagined that Huang Yuli would not consider that they were bloodkin and mercilessly struck out at him. And she was utterly vicious, totally not leaving him any standing to back off. Although she was Bai Lu Feng's daughter, in terms of manner, she was similar to her father, but in terms of character, they were totally different. Bai Lu Jing was a gentleman, generous and big-hearted. Towards Bai Lu Jing, this brother, although he did not overly indulge him, but his love and protection towards him was plenty. No matter what wrong Bai Lu Jing committed, as long as he sincerely begged for mercy, Bai Lu Feng would let it pass. However, Huang Yuli totally don't buy it at all. From the bottom of her heart, she had never considered him as her relative at all. Just based on what Bai Lu Jing had done to the original Bai Ruoli, he deserved to die at least 1,000 times. But Huang Yuli didn't want to dirty her hands because of a scum like him, so she cannot be too bothered. When Huang Yuli didn't hear Bai Lu Jing's reply, her lips curled slightly. Looks like second uncle is not satisfied with this present of him. He feels that it is too light and too little. Since that's the case, Bai Lu Jing almost fainted and hurriedly replied, Satisfied, I'm very satisfied." Huang Yuli chortled. "Second uncle's hobby is really unimaginable. To be beaten up till this state, you're still so delighted and satisfied. Don't tell me you have a hobby that cannot be divulged." Bai Lu Jing's entire body was shaking in anger. It was obviously Huang Yuli who had coerced him into saying this, but this last made it sound like it was his special hobby. He had seen sinister and two-faced people before, but he had never met such a sinister and two-faced person before, and he was not able to resist. Just at this moment, disorderly shuffling footsteps was heard from the corridor. A figure ran over from the backyard, and upon seeing Bai Lu Jing in such a terrible state, the person immediately ran over and screaming in a loud, crying voice, Marquis, how are you? What happened to you? Quickly wake up. Who had caused you to be in such a state?" The person was the Marquis lady. Seeing Huang Yuli standing by the side, Marquis lady immediately understood what had happened. She raised her head and stared at her viciously, loudly berating her. "Bai Ruoli, you slut. All these are your doing, isn't it? Why have you come to harm our family again? You've already harmed my daughter by so much, and now you're harming your second uncle. Where on heavens can you find such a slut who don't give a damn about family relations?" That's right. Your mother was a wild woman from an unknown country, and after giving birth, she had eloped with another man. It's no wonder that she could give birth to such an ungrateful thing like you. Initially, Huang Yueli wasn't affected by the rambling, but when she heard the insults hurled onto this body's biological mother, her eyes flashed a glint of murder. She sneered icily, "Very good. Looks like I had only given second uncle a gift, and not to second aunt had caused you displeasure. That's right, this niece of yours don't know any etiquette. So here's what I owe you." Mo observed her reaction and immediately understood her meaning. His flexible sword flashed out once again and copying the past action. He had drawn out several scars on her face. But following that, the next strike was towards the Marquis lady's mouth. With this strike, her lips had been split. The berating that came from the Marquis lady ceased abruptly and cried out a blood-curdling scream. But due to the wound on her mouth, she was unable to scream entirely and could only make out murmurs from her throat. You can also listen on. Marquis lady stared daggers at her, wide-eyed, and wanted to continue berating, but she was not even capable to completing a complete sentence. Huang Yueli walked over and coldly looked at the couple who were lying on the ground. When I left the South Yu Kingdom, I had already told you to get lost from my father's valiant martial manner. Obviously, you treated my words as passing wind. Not only did you usurp my residence, you had dared to use the name of Prince Yuang and set up a banquet here. Was it that you thought I had left the South Yu Kingdom and would never return? Or was it that even if I had returned, I could not do anything to you? Bai Lu Jing had almost fainted, but when he heard Huang Yueli's clear voice, his heart started thumping and he regained his conscience in shock. Because what Huang Yueli said was exactly what he had in mind. The fact that Huang Yueli had left the country with Li Moying was witnessed by many, as Li Moying's cultivation was simply too heaven-defying. Most people had guessed that he was accepted in a reputable sect, and his departure this time was to bring his unwed fiancée back to the sect. And perhaps once they left, they would not return. Bai Lu Jing was initially threatened by Huang Yueli and grabbed hold of time to shift houses, in fear that Huang Yueli would return and question him. However, the rumor was slowly spreading around in the city, and when he heard it, he thought it made perfect sense. Prince Yuang's cultivation was extremely high, so he would probably not be bothered with the emperor's position in such a small country like South Yu Kingdom. Since he had brought Huang Yueli back to her sect, with an innately sixth-grade talent like Huang Yueli, perhaps she would also be accepted into the sect and likely not return here. If that was the case, what did he have to fear? Since Huang Yueli would not be back to seek revenge, then her marriage to Prince Yuang might not be a bad thing after all. It had turned into an auspicious event. No matter how you see it, Huang Yueli was the daughter of the valiant martial manner. To those outsiders who did not know the truth, even if she was not close to Bai Lu Jing, she was indeed still her bloodkin niece. That was why Bai Lu Jing was able to make use of the relationship to re-establish his standing in the South Yu Kingdom. Although his daughter was not made the crown princess, and was in fact abolished, he still had a niece who was married to a peerless expert, and that niece was a sixth-grade talent. With this relationship, who in the entire South Yu Kingdom would dare to look down on him? Even if it was the emperor, he would still need to show him courtesy. When he thought of this, Bai Lu Jing was not flustered anymore. In fact, he became even more arrogant and despotic. Adding on to the fact that there were plenty of people who wanted to be acquainted with Prince Yuang, so they automatically claimed connections with him. In this way, it made Bai Lu Jing to have an illusion as if he was the father-in-law of Prince Yuang. For today's birthday, he had even hosted a 100-table banquet. All the respectable and powerful families from the entire kingdom were virtually present to send their birthday congratulations. Even Lu Yi's grandfather, a fourth-degree realms duke, had personally appeared and prepared a large gift. This had given Bai Lu Jing lots of glamour as he floated in the clouds. However, just at the moment where Bai Lu Jing was most gleeful, Huang Yueli suddenly returned. And upon her return, she had unrestrainedly struck out. Not only did she round up all his guards, even Bai Lu Jing and the Marquis lady were not let off. all of them were gifted with flowery faces. You can also listen on. Bai Lu Jing laid on the floor, completely disheartened. The minute he saw Huang Yueli, he already knew today he was going to get into big trouble. But even though he already knew it in his heart, he had absolutely not thought that Huang Yueli was much more vicious than he could imagine. As he bore with the acute pain, his mouth was mumbling to be forgiven. Bai Ruoli, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have not heeded your orders and continued to occupy the valiant martial manner. I know I'm in the wrong, and I will move out immediately now. Please let us off. Bai Lu Jing had wanted to kneel down and kowtow in front of Huang Yueli, but due to the tremendous pain on his body, he was unable to climb up. Huang Yueli sneered coldly. You just discovered that you're in the wrong? Too late. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'm not going to give you the opportunity to move on your own. M.O.E. Help me strip the Marquis and Marquis Lady and throw them out. All the assets in the valiant martial manner. They're not allowed to remove a single piece. Chase all the other servants away. If you're not able to do it in time, get Kai Wei and the rest over to do it will do. M.O.E. respectfully bowed as he responded with a yes and walked towards the couple. Marquis Lady started screaming, You, what are you trying to do? You dare to strip my clothes? I'm the Marquis Lady, a first-rate title Marquis Lady. You dare to insult me like this? Get lost, get away from me. Even so, M.O.E. was unmoved by what she said, and under the slashing of the flexible sword, both of their clothes were shredded into broken strips. Following that, he pulled them by their hair and shook them till the strips fell from their bodies and threw them against the outside of the wall. At the entrance of the manor, there were several people who were here to send their congratulations and had yet to leave. Even though such a sudden situation had happened and the banquet was sure to fail, but these people were curious about what was happening before them, and they were unwilling to leave. Indeed, by choosing to stay, they were able to see such an exciting scene. When the two bare-bodied figures appeared at the entrance of the manor, everyone stared wide-eyed as they surrounded them. At one glance, their eyeballs almost fell out. Whoa, isn't this too exciting? Under the bright daylight, there's someone who came out to run in the nude. Isn't this too indecent? What's more, it's two disfigured people. Their faces are just too scary. It's full of blood. Who are these people? Didn't you hear what went on in the manor? These are the Marquis and Marquis Lady. They have been chased out by the third miss of the Bai family. Huh? What? What happened? Isn't it obvious? Isn't all because they are too shameless? They usurped Bai Lu Feng's property and assets for their own and even tortured his daughter. Now the third miss is back to claim back her assets. They still insist on staying there. So now they're being thrown out? Serve them right. Tis TSK. I'd never imagined that the Marquis would do such a thing. He's simply too shameless. To be surrounded by people in the nude had already made them embarrassed beyond words. They wished that they could bore a hole into the ground and hide in it. And now, the surrounding spectators had added an oil and fire with words of despise. This made the couple wish that they could just die on the spot. Meanwhile, in the manor, M.O.E. had instantly searched the inner courtyard and quickly found Kai Wei and the other servants, who were originally waiting on Huang Yueli, were all locked up in the firewood hut by Lu Jing. He had even starved them, as all of them had been tormented by the hunger till their faces had turned sallow. Some of them even had scars of being whipped. Huang Yueli's face immediately changed. Bai Lu Jing really thinks that I'm dead? He dared to even touch my people. Looks like by throwing him out was too easy for him. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli had yet to unleash her temper when she saw M.O.E. dragging someone out from the backyard. She stared at the figure and can't help but raised her eyebrow. That person was her second sister Bai Ruo Qi. The only difference was Bai Ruo Qi looked entirely different from the icy cold beauty that she displayed in the past. Her current face filled with bumpy scars which made her look even uglier than a pockmarked face. All these scars were due to the icy thorns which inflicted on her face by Huang Yueli on that fateful day. In addition, her footsteps were coxcombry with a slight lame. It was apparent that both the internal and external injuries on her had yet to completely recover. There wasn't much chance that she had any cultivation much left. Huang Yueli stood at a distance of a few footsteps away and could not sense any of her profound energy. Seeing Huang Yueli standing in front of her, a glint of unhidden malice flashed within her eyes. Because compared to her ugly and discomposed look, Huang Yueli looked much better than her. Even though she hastened on the entire journey and Huang Yueli was covered in dust, but her composure looked extremely well and high-spirited. She seemed to become much prettier than before. Her luscious red lips blossoming as though they were cherry blossoms were alluring, totally looking like a young lady in love. Obviously, the man who had turned her into this was the suave and powerful Prince Yuwang. Bai Ruoqi almost bit her silver tooth to smithereens. What could that heavenly Prince Yuwang see in this little lass? The slutty Huang Yueli had taken advantage of everything. Not only was she suddenly able to cultivate, she became a 6th grade talent and caught Prince Yuwang's eye and got together with her. Such a powerful and handsome man should belong to her by Ruoqi, and yet that lass actually snatched her away. Bai Ruoqi was both envious and jealous. If she could, she would have rushed up and strangled Huang Yueli on the spot. But she had stayed in the underground prison in the South Yu Kingdom for more than 10 days. It was only upon Li Shui's return to the kingdom that she was allowed to return home. The experience of the short stint had slowly sapped away her arrogance and allowed her to realize the reality that was happening. When Mo dragged her out earlier, he had displayed his power and was absolutely a first-rate expert. Bai Ruoqi knew she was not his opponent and had not dared to be rash. She only used a pair of begrudging eyes to stare at Huang Yueli. Even though Huang Yueli was stared in such a manner, it didn't impact her at all. Of course she knew Bai Ruoqi hated her, but so what? She liked the feeling that people hated her to the core, but yet could not do anything to her. Huang Yueli couldn't be bothered to even cast a glance at her, and simply waved her hand. "Oh, it's my second sister." Since her parents have already been chased out to run around in the nude, it really seems not right for her to be fully clothed standing here. Throw her out to run around naked too. Mo nodded and proceeded to take action. Bai Ruoqi had not expected her to come up with this and couldn't help but started screaming in a high-pitched voice. "Oh, let me go. Let me go. Bai Ruoqi, you're too much. Using such an evil method. If Prince Yuwang knows of your underhanded methods, he will definitely spurn you. All your innocents are just putting on an act. I must tell Prince Yuwang about it." Huang Yueli raised her eyebrow and didn't bother about her blustering, but only reminded Mo, "Oh yes, I forgot, since I just came back from a trip. How could I not give my second sister a gift? Mo, why didn't you remind me? You can also listen on." At this moment, Mo held Huang Yueli in high reverence in his heart. To have reached the pinnacle of being black-bellied, even his master was left in the dust. The entire family of this valiant martial manor had been so bold to annoy her. So digging their own grave was the result of their own doing. He hastily lowered his head to acknowledge his mistake. "Yes, it's your subordinate's negligence. Your subordinate will prepare the gift to second miss this instance." Huang Yueli simply nodded and replied with a yin. Mo immediately withdrew his sword, and Bai Ruoqi screeched and simply fainted. Mo did not know what it meant to show tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex, as he proceeded to strip her and threw her out from the enclosure. Outside the enclosure, the surrounding crowd gave out a wah in surprise and gleefully surrounded the new nude contender. At one look, it was something really incredible. The one that had fallen this time was a stark naked second miss of the Bai family. The crowd momentarily got excited. The two were thrown out earlier were the older couple by Lu Jing and the Marquis lady. They were after all older in age, and they had lost their shapely figures. So even though they were stripped of their clothes, there was nothing much to see. However, Bai Ruoqi was different. Although her face was disfigured, her figure was not bad. Long, slender legs, few people had the chance to come across such a pretty woman. What's more, even if her figure was not shapely, when everyone thought of how this woman almost became the crown princess, they feel that they should ogle a few more times, and would be even better if they could touch her. Bai Ruoqi had noticed the surrounding hungry gazes as darkness covered both her eyes, and she almost fainted on the spot. Fortunately, there were a few servants who had escaped from the manor, chased the surrounding spectators away as they helped these trio into a safe place. Bai Ruoqi grabbed onto one of the servants' hand as she gritted her teeth. "You, help me go to the palace and tell whatever had happened today to the 7th princess. Tell her the slut Bai Ruoli has returned. Let her take vengeance for me." The servant accepted it in a fluster and ran quickly towards the direction of the palace. Bai Ruoqi gave out an icy cold sneer. This smile that had appeared on her disfigured face, still full of blood, looked especially sinister and terrifying. Did this slut think that since she was hugging on a Prince Yuang, she could not do anything to her at all? Unfortunately, Prince Yuang did not return back with her this round. For all you know, he might have already dumped this little slut. She had only dared to show off her might in front of their family. 7th Princess was a valuable disciple and a 4th-rank armament master. She should have ways to curb this little slut. In the enclosure of the valiant Martial Manor, Huang Yueli did not know what Bai Ruoqi was thinking, but even if she knew, she would only sneer coldly. She appointed Kai Wei to be the head housekeeper of the valiant Martial Manor, and she would be fully responsible for keeping track of the valiant Martial Manor's finances, drawing up the responsibilities for all the servants, and she withdrew herself from the rest of the matters. What she had to do now was a very important task, and she cannot be delayed even for 1 second. That was to break through her level. To her, the largest gain in entering the Dark Moon Forest this round was to collect all the ingredients required for her to cultivate the 2nd stage of the 9 Phoenix transformations. That included the extremely hard-to-obtain 7th grade magical beast core, which was now in the possession of her hands. With this, she can now prepare to break through for a 2nd time. In order to protect all the people who she loved, she must absolutely obtain enough power and not become an obstruction to anyone. Breakthrough was right in front of her eyes. You can also listen on. Upon seeing Huang Yueli safely returning, she was teary-eyed as she had a stomach full of grievances to voice out. However, Huang Yueli didn't have time to bother about her and was in a hurry to go into closed-door cultivation. She asked for Mo.E. and urged again and again, "Brother Mo.E., I'm going into closed-door cultivation now. I reckon it will take around half a month. If you're not in a hurry, can I trouble you to help me look out for the matters around the manor? Additionally, a servant Kai Wei and the guards around the manor have some innate ability. It would be good if you can help to give them some pointers." Mo.E. naturally accepted the tasks. "This is within your subordinate's job scope. 3rd Miss, please don't worry." After Huang Yueli had settled all the matters, she set up an array surrounding the study room and locked herself inside, preparing for her breakthrough. This round's breakthrough was similar to the previous round. Most of the herbs that were required to be placed in the bathtub to the boiling point and through the medicinal bath, absorbing the fire attribute energy to draw out the innate potential of the flame's spirit physique. The only difference was the dozens of 5th to 7th grade fire attributed magical beast cores in Huang Yueli's possession. The energy that was stored in the magical beast cores could not be absorbed through the medicinal bath. She could only follow how the normal practitioners did, to move their chi, crush the magical beast cores, and extract the profound energy from within. Huang Yueli placed the herbs into the bathtub and summoned the little phoenix from the empty space. The appearance of Wang Kai was very glamorous. Not only did he bring along his favorite drumstick, he was also squatting on top of the little vulture's head when he appeared. Even though the little vulture was larger in size by several times, but it had no resistance against little Phoenix's might. Because the blood of the little Phoenix was simply too strong, it was much higher than the 7th grade magical beast by several levels. Huang Yueli saw the little Phoenix sitting on top of the little vulture's head leisurely, as if he was like a little emperor on a secret inspection, and was momentarily speechless. The corners of her lips twitched as she called out, "Wang Kai, you're doing well recently, eh?" Chirp, chirp. Little Phoenix gleefully cried out, flapping his wings as he flew down from the little vulture's head, and as he landed on the ground, he had turned into the appearance of a young, cute boy. The boy's gaze landed on the huge bathtub on the ground. Female devil, you are going to break through again? Huang Yuli nodded affirmatively. That's right. Quickly help to light the fire. This round to break through to the second stage, I will need an even more powerful blaze than the previous, so you have to stay beside me to help add more fire when needed. Oh, it's like this. Although boy nodded his head, his eyeballs were rolling around in all directions. Huang Yuli had initially turned around, but she could feel that the little boy's gaze was stopped on her, so she turned around to face him again. What are you looking at? No, nothing. Little boy held an innocent expression. That big, dreamy eyes suddenly sparkled, giving off a lovely look. However, Huang Yuli was not tricked by him, and as she coughed lightly, she warned, "You'd better not try to trick me. It's not right for little kids to tell lies, and I cannot guarantee that I won't educate you in my loving way." What? You're conducting domestic violence again. Little boy suddenly jumped up and instinctively covered his backside as he retreated a few steps and hid behind the back of the little vulture. Little vulture failed to understand and turned his head as the hair of its head stood up vertically. Huang Yuli gave a crafty smile as she said, "Why are you so scared? Feeling guilty? If you did not have any bad ideas on your mind, why would you be afraid of me beating your buttocks? You can also listen on." Little boy could not answer back against her words, and after a short while, he replied with a stammer, I really didn't have any bad ideas. Okay? Look at my innocent eyes." He then widened his eyes even bigger. Unfortunately, Huang Yuli did not fall for his tricks and raised an eyebrow as she queried, "Really not going to tell the truth?" Little boy gave a cold shudder. Whenever female devil had this expression, it means she was going to do something to him. And whenever he thought of the horrible avenues that she used to bully other people, he immediately gave in. "I was just looking at you, because I was worried about your safety," he replied awkwardly. Sigh. Although he was of royal blood and was a powerful divine creature, large phoenix, but the female devil was too terrifying, so he had to give in a little. Of course, he had to maintain the demeanor of divine creatures, and not because he was afraid of this female devil. Little Phoenix bit on his fingernails while trying to give himself various reasons to boost his courage. When Huang Yuli heard his answer, she was shocked, but almost immediately she recovered from it, and on her face was an expression which was in between funny and annoyed. This little monster was probably still harboring hatred for the last round when he was locked up for criticizing her unshapely body figure. So this time, he was planning to look at her nude body while she was doing her breakthrough in the medicinal bath. In this way, was she considered to be sexually harassed by a little tot? Thinking of this, she shot like an arrow to the front of Little Phoenix and lifted him up. Little Phoenix originally wanted to hide under the feathers of the little vulture, but Little Vulture was still her contracted spiritual pet. So under Huang Yuli's one look, he automatically retreated. Little Phoenix had nowhere to hide and could only be lifted by his collar. His two short legs were still dangling in midair as he made an attempt to struggle. Let me down, let me down. You dare to lift a precious phoenix like that? Don't you want to live anymore? I will puff out a ball of fire and smoke you to death. Humph, humph. Huang Yuli sneered. Instead of properly learning, you still dare to argue back. Your feathers have yet to be fully grown, and you dare to harbor designs on your master. Wait and see how I will punish you. Little boy was punished severely and sprawled on the ground while his tears were falling like a waterfall. Boo-hoo-hoo, I cannot live anymore. At my young age, I've lost my parents, my brother don't love me, my sister don't live me, and I've even fallen into the hands of this perverted master who loves domestic violence. Where on heavens can you find such a kid like me who was born into a tough life? It's totally illogical. Huang Yuli's mouth started twitching. This damn kid was so hard to educate. She responded chillingly. Next time you dare to look at your sister bathing, I'll throw you over to Lemoyne. What? You will throw me to him? Little Phoenix's face turned green immediately. WHY? Oh, You peeked at his fiancée bathing. As a man, you will not take this lying down. I'll hand you over to him to be taught properly. After all, how could such a fine lady like me even allow her fiancé to wear a green hat? Do you think I said correctly? Little Phoenix was already shivering and curled up into a ball. Don't tell that fellow I will listen to you, all right? Boo-hoo. You don't want to follow that cold, bloodthirsty man. Female devil might be scary, but that man was scarier by 10,000 times. Just one look from him already made his heart unbearable. If he were to fall into his hands, Little Phoenix trembled and his attitude immediately took a 180-degree turn. He smiled obsequiously. Master, didn't you say you want a breakthrough? Why have you not started yet? I'll start the fire for you now, and I guarantee the fire will be very prosperous and you will be extremely satisfied with it. You can also listen on. Saying that, Little Phoenix puffed up his cheeks and with great effort, sucked in big mouthful of air and blew furiously at the bottom of the bathtub. A ferocious fire was started up and the entire room was filled with scorching heat. If not for the fact that Huang Yueli had already set up an array for protection, perhaps this small building would have already been burnt to a black ashes from such a high temperature. Instead of feeling happy that this little boy had suddenly heeded her orders, she was feeling melancholy. It was akin to seeing a ghost. What was so good about Li Moying that even her spiritual pet had to side towards that man? Wang Kai was not afraid of her, but was afraid of Li Moying? Huang Yueli pouted, and she casted a glance at Little Phoenix. She removed her clothes and entered the bathtub. Boiling hot water instantly glided past every single inch of her skin, immersing her entire body to feel scorched. That feeling of being boiled alive could instantly break a person down. However, Huang Yueli already had the same experience during her first breakthrough. So when she was facing the same thing this time, she had already gotten used to it and was a lot calmer now. She clenched her teeth and bore with the intense pain. At the same time, her fingers stretched outwards as she reached for a 5th-grade fire, attributed magical beast core. Bam! The magical beast core had been crushed into powder. The heavenly and earthly profound energy congealed within immediately exploded and dissipated into the surroundings. Huang Yueli immediately used the 9 Phoenix transformations cultivation method and started to absorb the dense fire attributed energy. Using magical beast cores to cultivate, each person's cultivation effect varied. Sometimes, if the affinity of the attribute was different, it would become a world of difference. After the magical beast core was crushed, profound energy immediately dispersed and would totally dissipate within a quarter of an hour. Hence, what a practitioner needed to do was to suck in all the profound energy into his body before the energy dispersed. First step was to forcefully keep it into his dantian and slowly refine. This process was extremely dangerous and very challenging to the innate skill and willpower. Firstly, the affinity with the attribute must be strong enough before he can suck in most of the energy from the magical beast core. Some practitioners lower in innate skill might spend fortunes to purchase a high-level magical beast core, but never able to take in the energy on time, causing a large amount of energy to be dispersed, and all will be wasted. And even after taking in the energy into the body, one cannot immediately cultivate. The speed of refinement, therefore, decides the speed of cultivation. Most importantly, if the energy stored within the magical beast core was too strong, in the process of absorbing the energy might cause the practitioner to be unable to take it, leading to various internal injuries. The most serious consequence was a severance of meridians or even exploding up leading to death. Therefore, for first-degree realm practitioners, they can only start from absorbing first-grade magical beast cores. Even if it was a genius born with high innate skill, generally they would start from second-grade magical beast cores. As for magical beast cores of grades higher than that, they do not even dare to try. The reason was because it was simply too dangerous. If one was not careful, not only will he not be able to cultivate and advance, he might even throw his life away. If Li Moying knew that Huang Yueli was attempting to use the 5th-grade magical beast core to cultivate, he would rather be beaten to death than to pass this to Huang Yueli to take this risk. However, at this moment of time, the magical beast core that Huang Yueli had crushed was indeed a genuine 5th grade. A first-degree Realm 9 level practitioner was actually able to absorb the energy of a 5th grade magical beast core. If this were to be leaked out, probably no one would ever believe it. You can also listen on. Even if it was only just saying, others would say he was overestimating his own strengths. If a normal person was to do such a thing, the minute the magical beast core was crushed, it would already cause the Dantian to explode and die on the spot. However, Huang Yueli was safe. Instead of the body exploding, there was a peaceful expression on her face, not even with a frown on her eyebrows. It was silent and peaceful. A raging fire, attributed energy, dissipated, but it lingered momentarily on the fragments of the broken magical beast core. Shortly, as though an invisible hand was leading it, the energy congealed into the straight line and gradually floated towards Huang Yueli's chest. Even Little Phoenix was stunned when he saw this scene. What? This can actually be done. It should be fake, right? How did female devil do it? Flame spirit physique. Was it so perverse? When the energy dissipate, it would run amok and totally unable to be controlled. The direction of dispersion was also disorderly. Similar to an explosion, it will spurt in all directions. However, in Huang Yueli's hands, this raging energy became tamed, and at a tug of her finger, it voluntarily allowed to be absorbed into her Dantian. At the instant that the fire-attributed energy rushed to Huang Yueli's chest, Little Phoenix's heart jumped straight into his throat. He was really afraid that Huang Yueli would be hurt by the raging, exploding energy and die on the spot. He refused to wink his eyes while staring at the bathtub, not because he wanted to see the beauty leave the bath, but was really afraid she would die because of this. Eventually, the truth had been proven. Little Wang Kai had worried over nothing. No accidents happened at all. The energy in the magical beast core were totally drawn out and were slowly drifting towards Huang Yueli as she absorbed everything in. Ordinary people, even for those experienced 9th degree realm practitioners, it would be a major achievement as they were able to absorb around 80% of the energy of the magical beast core. Energy dispersion was unavoidable. However, she had managed to absorb the entire energy in the magical beast core, not even leaving any dregs behind. Little Phoenix had been watching her from the corner of his eye, and only when the last bit of energy was absorbed into Huang Yueli's body did he heave a sigh of relief. But he did not entirely feel relieved. The reason was because absorption was just the first step. Huang Yueli had to completely refine the profound energy before she can convert it for her own use. With this highly intense fire-attributed profound energy, for a first-degree realm practitioner like Huang Yueli, it would be extremely difficult to refine it. She might not be able to refine it completely even after a month or two. Little Phoenix saw that the flames below the bathtub was slightly lessening and blew another puff from away. At the same time, he was overcome with boredom as he propped his head up. Looks like this round, they would be in closed-door cultivation for a month of 2. It would be extremely bored, and he would be bored to death. But the most important thing was his drumsticks were almost finished. Sigh, what a tragedy. Little Phoenix was drawing circles on the ground, but after a while, he lifted his head. It seemed something was wrong somewhere. The fire-attributed energy in the air was starting to go into a rage again. Little Phoenix hurriedly turned his head around, and when his sight was set, his eyeballs almost fell out from his sockets, because Huang Yueli had crushed another 5th grade magical beast core. Esashi, what was she thinking? Could it be that she was preparing to absorb another magical beast core? But how much time had passed? It was only slightly over 2 hours. Had she already fully refined the energy of the previous magical beast core? Extra chapter, Previous Life. First meeting 30 years ago. In the most lavish tea house of the Sky Emperor City was filled with various guests from the soaring heavens continent. With exception, all of them were powerful practitioners, and they were of pivotal importance experts in the various strengths that they were in. However, in the Sky Emperor City where all the powerful experts consolidated, they were just another ordinary member. The guests were huddled in groups of twos and threes, earnestly discussing the first upcoming tournament that was going to be held in the Sky Emperor city. Sky Emperor's first tournament was the #1 famous pugilist meet in the Soaring Heavens continent, and only contestants under the age of 30 could enter. To be able to get into the top 3, or even top 10, top 100 would definitely become a famed contender in the entire Soaring Heavens continent. Have you heard? This year's first tournament, but the contenders are plentiful. All the top sect in the Soaring Heavens continent had people entering. Yes, the third young master of the Sky Devil sect was rumored to have broken to the 6th degree realm at the age of 20. He will entering the tournament this time. Not only that, the young sovereign from Cloud Ocean sect was rumored to be an 8th grade talent. And he is also a trio attribute practitioner, and he has already broken to the 6th degree realm. And there's Jiuhua Islands. Just at this moment, someone pointed to the streets below. Look quickly. The carriage's ostentation is so grand. Who is it? The crowd consolidated to the window and drew a breath of cold air. It was because the carriage below was simply too extravagant. All the horses pulling the carriage were 7th-grade magical beasts, and the bodyguards alongside the carriage were at least 7th-degree realm experts. Such an extravagant style was simply too shocking. At this moment, a breeze blew past, and the curtains in the carriage was lifted slightly, showing the side view of the person in the carriage. That ravishing young lady was just 34 years old, but had indescribable beauty. The lucid and elegant shape of the countenance and snow-white delicate skin looked as though she was drawn from a painting. As she quietly sat by the window, expressing a tranquil and peaceful, portrayed her even more like a fallen angel, as beautiful as a dream. Everyone held their breathing, not daring to even gasp. It was until the carriage had disappeared at the end of the street, and after a long time before the crowd's consciousness started to drift back. W8, who was that? Did you see the lady in that carriage? She's simply too beautiful for words. Who on earth was that? Looks like you've just reached Sky Emperor City. You don't even recognize the young Imperial Empress, Huang Yueli, of the Mythical Flame Palace? She's a peerless 9th-grade talent. At the age of 30, she's already a 6th-degree realm practitioner, and furthermore, she's also a 6th-grade armament master. In the entire Sky Emperor City, who doesn't know who she is? Oh, it's Miss Huang. Then, will she be taking part in the #1 tournament? Oh, what kind of joke is that? With her power and that status, does she even need to take part in such a tournament? But I've heard another rumor, that the people wooing Ms. Huang are simply too many. She had said that if she were to marry in future, the person must be the strongest in the Sky Emperor City. Only an invincible man is worthy of her heart. She really said such things? No wonder she's Miss Huang, with her innate skill. It should indeed be so. Isn't that right? So that's why in this first season of the #1 tournament, many sects with peerless talents are attending and aiming for first place. Prizes aside, the main motive is to show off in front of Miss Huang, in the hope that they will gain her favor. No wonder. The crowd started to discuss enthusiastically, and none had noticed that sitting on the seat nearest to the window was a youth in ordinary robes, taking in all the things that everyone was saying. That youth was wearing a hood and had half of his face hidden. But just based on his jaw, one could tell that he was an extremely handsome and elegant young man. Just in that short moment of time, sitting there, quite a number of female attendants had walked over to chat him up, in the hope of gaining this attractive young man's attention. However, he held up an expression which deserved a beating, his gaze stopping at the streets. A fleeting image of the young lady's grace appeared continuously in his thoughts. He consciously knew that no one could match up to his innate skill, and with a handsome countenance, his eyes were always on the top of his head. No matter where he went to, many young ladies of outstanding upbringing would automatically turn to woo him, but he had never bothered about a single one. It was until he saw the young lady in the carriage that his heart missed a beat, and following that, thumping all the way speedily. So it wasn't because he didn't find a match, but just that he had not caught the right person yet. The youth quietly raised his teacup, listening to the bustling voices in the tea house. Huang Yueli, Imperial Empress of the mythical Flame Palace? Her name was indeed a reflection of her name. Her name was beautiful, and her person was even more beautiful. So, she likes a man who is strong and powerful. She only wished to marry the #1 expert. Then he shall seat himself into that position and become the only man who is worthy of her. 3 months later, the #1 tournament that was held once a decade was won by a completely unknown figure. One who had never been heard of, a youth who had come from the border of a small city, had oppressed all the peerless talents from the various sect and becoming #1. Henceforth, Mu Qingying's name had been spread widely all over the entire soaring heavens continent. You can also listen on. Could this sort of thing really have happened? No, it's impossible. This didn't make sense. Little Phoenix shook his head furiously, believing that he must have seen wrongly or there must be a mistake somewhere. However, fact had proven itself once again that he was just too young and innocent. Huang Yueli's fair and slender fingers gently picked up the second 5th grade magical beast core, and with a movement of her fingers, she crushed yet another one to pieces. The energy stored within a magical beast core had once again surged outwards and drifted towards the position of her Dantian. Little Phoenix had truly become dumbfounded. Within such a short time, Huang Yueli had actually managed to refine all the energy from the 5th grade magical beast core, and without taking any time off to rest and adjust, she had immediately started absorbing the next magical beast core. The process of this magical beast core was similar to the previous one. The only difference was the amount of time Huang Yueli had used to absorb the energy was shortened by 1/4 of an hour. Perhaps due to the familiarity from the previous round, the speed was naturally heightened. After the refinement had completed, she held out her fingers once again to reach the 3rd magical beast core. At this moment of time, Little Phoenix had expended all his energy to even be shocked any further. For Huang Yueli to be abnormal till this stage, in future, no matter what happened, he would not waste his energy to be shocked. But very quickly, Little Phoenix dispelled these thoughts thoroughly, because after spending a total of 10 hours of refining 9 pieces of 5th grade magical beast cores, Huang Yueli outstretched her hands. In this round, she actually took a 6th grade magical beast core. This female devil is really. Little Phoenix held it in for some time, and he was still unable to find the correct term to put into words because the abnormality was way beyond how he could describe this black-bellied master of his. She was simply heaven-defying to the extreme. Who does she think she is? How could she actually be able to do so? The energy stored in 6th grade magical beast core was higher in 5th grade magical beast core by 10 times and above. Even if she was able to absorb the 5th grade magical beast cores, she might not be able to absorb the 6th grade ones. If something had really happened, what should we do? After the 6th grade magical beast core was crushed, the energy that flowed out was indeed denser by several folds than before. That raging energy was spread throughout the little study room, as though it was about to blow the room up into pieces. It seemed like Huang Yueli's array formation was not able to contain the energy, but from the surroundings outside the array. The rays emitting from the array patterns were intermittently visible, seeming to be and not to be. However, even such a powerful energy had to bow down in front of Huang Yueli. This energy, under her oppression, had lined itself up into a queue and absorbed into her. There were a total of 4 pieces of 6th grade magical beast cores. Every single time she crushed one piece, Little Phoenix's brow would subconsciously waver and his heart would suffer another bout of worrying and shock. What was the limit of the female devil? Her innate skill should have long surpassed the real flame spirit physique. How much more energy could she absorb? But was this really possible? If she was to continue, would it really be all right? Little Phoenix's heart was pounding hard, and it was till the last magical beast core being totally absorbed before he could finally put down the big stone that was weighing on his heart. Finally, it had all finished. And it's great that nothing had happened. But at this moment, Huang Yueli opened the last box that was placed beside the bathtub. When this box was just opened, It emitted a light red radiance and turned the entire four walls of the study room into a tinge of red hue. You can also listen on. Little Phoenix's eyes almost falling out, and his face was frighteningly pale. What the she's playing for real? Is this the legendary 7th grade magical beast core? If it was said that Huang Yueli could absorb 5 6th grade magical beast cores, it was still within Little Phoenix's acceptable range. But now that she was preparing to absorb the 7th grade magical beast core, even Little Phoenix was unable to maintain his composure of the current situation. The reason was the intrinsic quality of magical beast core of 7th grade and above were totally different from 6th grade and below. 7th grade magical beast cores were basically the offspring of divine beasts and ordinary magical beasts. The offspring had inherited some divine beast blood, so their magical beast core base was essentially of a different grade from 6th grade magical beast core. The energy contained were strong and more aggressive, and the danger increased 100-fold. A first-degree realm practitioner aiming to absorb a 7th grade magical beast core, this itself was not just seeking death, but aiming for the spirit to be dispersed and the soul to be shattered to bits. Female devil, don't. You cannot be rash. Don't be rash. Little Phoenix couldn't bear it any further and immediately rushed forward in an attempt to stop her. It wasn't easy to find a master like Huang Yueli, so he really couldn't bear to see her toying around with her life like that. After all, her innate skill was powerful and she knew how to roast chicken drumstick. Putting aside her vile character, she had no other shortcomings and was passable as his master. But he was still one step too late. Huang Yueli's actions was very quick. Once her fingers felt the magical beast more, she had instantly crushed the magical beast core without any hesitation. The intense impact of the explosive energy from the 7th grade beast core almost blasted Little Phoenix out, heavily smashing him against the ceiling of the study room. On the wall were several cracks which formed when his tiny body had smashed against. At the same time, the water in the bathtub had turned into red smoke, encompassing the entire room. The vapor rose, and every single level of smog were boiling and still burning. Huang Yueli's sight congealed, attempting to gather the energy of the 7th grade magical beast core. But this round, even she felt that she had some difficulty in doing so. 7th grade magical beast core's energy was extremely powerful, and it was full of impact, totally not heeding to her commands, but trying to desperately escape from her clutches and disperse outwards. She bit the tip of her tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood towards the direction of the scattered pieces of the magical beast core. The energy in the air seemed to pause for that one instance, and following that, she used all of her power and finally managed to coacervate the energy. Although it was harder to coagulate the 7th grade energy as compared to the 5th and 6th grade magical beast cores, and her absorption speed was much slower, but she was still able to succeed in collecting all the energy without a single trace of dispersion out of the array. However, the energy of the 7th grade magical beast core was too strong, and although Huang Yueli managed to preserve all the energy, but in order to refine it, it was still a difficult task to complete. This round, there wasn't that insane speed like before. For an entire 3 days and 3 nights, she sat quietly in the study room and refined the fire, attributed profound energy within her body, not stopping even for a moment. Outside the study room, the guards and maids within the residence took turns dutifully to stand guard outside the little courtyard which Huang Yueli had shut herself into closed-door cultivation. Whereas for Moe, from sunrise till dawn, he had his flexible sword in his hands and stood guard silently outside the courtyard entrance under a tree every single day, without a word. Kaiwei reminded him several times to rest. After all, Huang Yueli would probably be in closed-door cultivation for at least half a month, so for the time being, she would not be able to leave her room. You can also listen on. However, Moe kept Li Moying's orders in his mind and did not dare cut some slack, fearing that something might happen to his future mistress. To go into closed-door cultivation to advance in level was not a small matter. There could be various sort of accidents which might happen. Even though Huang Yueli had outstanding innate skill, but he still could not afford to be careless. 3 days had passed just like that. Early this morning, Manager's son from Thousand Treasure Pavilion found his way to the manor and insisted on looking for Huang Yueli. He went to meet him on behalf of Huang Yueli, Manager's son. Third Miss is currently in closed-door cultivation and is not convenient to meet you. What is your purpose for this visit? Telling me will be the same. Manager's son had seen Moe with Lemoyne and knew that he must be his boss's subordinate, and Moe was also a powerful expert. So Manager's son was very agitated when he saw Moe to the extent of almost kneeling down. Sir Moe, please help us. Our Thousand Treasure Pavilion have been wrecked by someone. What? What happened? Tell me slowly. Moe frowned. Manager's son was on the verge of tears as he spoke with a forlorn expression on his face. Sir Moe, I also got to know about it some time ago that the new boss of our Thousand Treasure Pavilion was actually Prince Yuang in incognito. Before Prince Yuang left, he told us that he will be gifting the Thousand Treasure Pavilion to his fiancée, Third Miss of the Bai family, and we will be working under Third Miss. So that was the reason for me to come and beg Third Miss. Moe replied, go straight to the point. Today someone went to Thousand Treasure Pavilion to wreak havoc. Manager's son immediately replied, really? Ever since the news that Prince Yuang is our new owner had been spread out, Thousand Treasure Pavilion's business had been great daily, and there were many visitors from our neighboring countries who came in fame. However, when we opened for business this morning, there was no one outside at all. When we went out to take a look, we realized that our entire store was surrounded by some people, and they even threatened to capture all the people in our shop. What? Moe asked inquiringly. Since everyone knows that Thousand Treasure Pavilion is master's business, there would still be someone who dares to wreak havoc? In South Yu Kingdom, who would dare to antagonize our master? Manager's son scowled miserably. The person leading this is the Crown Prince. We're not sure where he heard from that boss had already left the South Yu Kingdom, and he will not be back for some time. So the Crown Prince used the excuse that our Thousand Treasure Pavilion had cheated him of his money, and he wanted to capture all of us and put the crime on our heads, and he had also mugged all the valuables in our shop. With the help of the bodyguards in Thousand Treasure Pavilion, this subordinate risked my life to come here. There's such a thing. Looks like since Master had left, there are many hearts which have started wavering. That's right. Now, only Third Miss will be able to suppress the Crown Prince. Sir Moe, is it possible? Moe shook his head and interrupted him. Nothing must happen to Third Miss at this juncture. Since this is the case, I'll make a trip with you. But the people whom the Crown Prince had brought along are the most powerful Golden Scale Guard in the entire South Yu Kingdom, and it was rumored that all of their cultivations are at least in the second-degree realm and above. Sir Moe, I know your cultivation isn't bad, but two fists are no match for our hands. Manager's son was not a practitioner with innate talent, so towards the difference in strength between Moe and the Golden Scale Guards, he had totally no idea at all. Moe didn't explain further and only replied with one sentence. Don't worry, I won't embarrass Master. He informed Kai Wei of what had happened and proceeded to lead Manager's son to Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Kai Wei was very worried. From her view, although the Crown Prince was not as good as Prince Yuang, but he was still one of the top talents in South Yu Kingdom, and the Golden Scale Guards were all top experts. You can also listen on. No matter how tough Moe was, he was only a bodyguard beside Prince Yuang. How would he be able to deal with so many people? So ever since Moe left, Kai Wei was unable to sit or stand still, and she kept walking to and fro. Every 15 minutes, she would look towards the main door to see if Moe had returned. Not knowing why, her heart had a bad premonition, as if something troubling would be happening today. Time passed quickly, and it was until noon when a sudden pattering sound from hooves echoed from the main street outside the Valiant Marshal Manor. A pleasant feeling swelled up in Kai Wei's heart as she immediately rushed out to welcome the guest. Brother Mo is finally back. Everyone, quickly go and welcome him. Remember to check if he's injured. The few guards' responses and hurriedly rushed to the main door. These few days, Mo had enlightened them on their cultivation, and everyone were grateful and treated him as their teacher. Kai Wei followed them to the main door. However, before she had reached, she heard a series of battling sounds, and immediately following that, there were some bang-bang sounds, and a figure was flicked into midair and fell onto the ground, fainting away from serious injury. Kai Wei had a great shock, and her eyes opened wide in surprise. Lying on the ground were valiant Manors guards, who dared to come and create havoc at the valiant Marshall Manor. And without a single word, they had dealt the guards with serious injuries. Just at this moment, someone strode into the main door. The person at the foremost position was a young lady, who looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. Her countenance was enchanting. Figure was slender, and what was most amazing was she had a refined temperament, effortless, filled with an air of elegance. One look, and you'd know she was someone extraordinary. Where's Byrooli, that slut? Ask her to stand before this princess this instance. Kai Wei was dumbstruck, and her heart had been twitching knowing that today there would be big trouble. But she could only force herself to go forward to send her greetings. This lady, I know who you are, Puck. A resounding sound rang. Kai Wei had yet to finish her words when a slap broke her sentence. This slap was vicious as it made her fly from it. Half of Kai Wei's face immediately swelled up like a steamed bun, and she fell over on the ground. By the side of the young lady was a young man who was dressed like a bodyguard as he said sternly, "Are you blind? Don't you even know our 7th princess? Where is Byrooli? 7th princess has arrived, and she didn't even come out to kneel and welcome her. What punishment should she receive?" 7th princess? Kai Wei held onto her face as she forced herself to turn and look at her. 7th Princess Li Shuier had left the South Yu Kingdom more than a year ago to the Celestial Light Academy to set on her learning path, and had rarely shown her face in the capital, so Kai Wei did not recognize her. However, just by the monstrous bodyguards that she brought along and her imposing manner, Kai Wei knew that she should be the 7th princess. But why did the 7th princess suddenly come to the valiant Marshall Manor? And she looked like she was seeking revenge. Obviously, she was not going to be nice to her 3rd miss. Kai Wei didn't speak up, and the bodyguard hurried sternly. Acting dead? Didn't you hear what I asked? Where is Byrooli? Ask her to come out and receive our 7th princess. Kai Wei was both shocked and frightened, and she was trembling in fright. But she knew that every practitioner's closed-door cultivation period was very crucial and cannot be disturbed. At this moment, her heart was yearning for Mo. If Mo was here, at least there'd be someone powerful to drag on some time with them. But since he's not here now, the remaining people here were not able to resist against the people that 7th Princess brought along. You can also listen on. Why did Mo have something on now and leave at this critical timing? A sliver of doubt flashed past Kai Wei's mind, but she didn't have time to think deeply into it. Li Shuier didn't get a reply from her and started to feel impatient. All right, stop dragging on with these people. Let's go in directly. This princess want to see where can that little slut Byrooli hide. Saying that, she strode inside the manor. A bunch of monstrous bodyguards followed behind her, and whoever guards from the valiant Marshall Manor stood in the way were sent flying, crashing heavily onto the ground and losing their consciousness. Just as Li Shuier was about to enter the backyard, Kai Wei turned anxious, and without caring for any other things, she immediately climbed up and rushed in front of Li Shuier to stop her. 7th Princess, PL, please wait a moment. 7th Princess gave her a sweeping glance and said, Scram. Kai Wei was frightened till she could not stand properly, but due to her loyalty towards her mistress, she persevered with standing in front of the 7th Princess. But her voice started to tremble. 7th Princess, even if you go in now, it's useless because our young miss is currently not in the manor. Oh, really? Hearing that, Seventh Princess's eyebrow raised up. "You'd better not be thinking of lying to me. If I were to find out that you dare to lie to me, this princess will definitely make your life a living hell." Kaiwei shuddered as her back broke out in cold sweat, drenching her clothes. "W won't dare to lie to Seventh Princess. Our young miss met an old man this morning, and after that she went out in the mid-afternoon via the back door. And she refused to tell us where she's going. Till now she had yet to return. This servant is very worried, and I was just preparing to go out and look for her." As Kaiwei was saying these, she was already weeping mountains of tears in her heart. "Woo woo woo. Third miss, this servant had told a lie for the very first time because of you. If Seventh Princess were to find out, and if I were to die in the manor, you have to help collect my corpse." Her words were half filled with truth and half filled with lies. Seventh Princess started to fill with doubts. Thousand Treasure Pavilion had encountered trouble, and she would definitely be involved in the matter. So naturally, she knew that Manager's son would come to the valiant Marshall Manor to seek help in addressing the trouble. Even though she didn't see Huang Yue at Thousand Treasure Pavilion at that time. But if she were to slip away from the back door, then it was possible that her men would probably not have seen it. Could it be that Thousand Treasure Pavilion had gotten into trouble, and when Huang Yue heard the news, she escaped due to fright? Kaiwei lowered her head as she felt Seventh Princess's stinging vision as her heart continued to pound hard. Just as Seventh Princess was hesitating, a sharp voice suddenly came from the entrance of the manor. "Seventh Princess, don't listen to the words of the cheap servant. She must be lying to you. Third miss is definitely somewhere within the manor. Second miss had sent someone to watch all the exits of the manor. She didn't leave this place at all." Hearing that, Kaiwei lifted her head and immediately recognized the person who had rushed into the manor. This was the valiant Marshall Manor's old housekeeper, and he had always been most loyal to Bai Lu Jing. When Huang Yue came to the manor to teach them a lesson that day, this old housekeeper took opportunity immediately and disappeared on the first instance, and he is one of the very few who remained safe. No one would have thought that he had returned to Bai Lu Jing and sent someone to monitor the movements of the valiant Marshall Manor. When Kaiwei saw him, she knew immediately that she was going to get into trouble. As expected, Seventh Princess immediately came around, and her brows raised in anger. "How dare you, you lowly servant, actually dare to lie to this princess? Men, drag her out and flog her hard." You can also listen on. Two guards immediately stood out and dragged the ashen-faced Kaiwei out. Li Shui'er continued to add on behind her. "Don't flog her to death. After this princess had dealt with Huang Yue, that little slut, I will send them both to the dungeon." Kaiwei's eyes rolled upwards and fainted on the spot. Now, no one could stop her. Li Shui'er furiously rushed to the backyard, and at the same time, she commanded the guards and servants who she had brought along to search everywhere. Very soon, her men had searched the entire manor. The guard leader reporting to Seventh Princess, there are no signs of the third miss in the manor's rooms. But in the backyard, there seems to be an array set up in the little courtyard entrance. Our men attempted several times to open the door, but were all repelled. Li Shui'er sneered. Bai Ruoli is definitely hiding in there. Set up an array? Could she be in closed-door cultivation? This is very interesting. If I were to rush in while she's in closed-door cultivation, will she enter the state of chi deviation? Yes, your subordinate also thinks so. Let's go. This princess will now go and whisk her out. Li Shui'er brought her men and reached the boundary of the array, and there, they found another problem. That was the array that Huang Yue had set up. She had never encountered it before, so she had no way to break through it. But she had her own methods. Li Shui'er immediately gathered all the guards and surrounded the little courtyard, and got all of them to attack the array. No matter how advanced an array was, the energy level were derived from the crystals, and once the energy had been used up, it would lose its effectiveness. Hence, as long as the power was strong enough, it was possible to use brute force to break apart an array. Even if the power was not strong enough, if they persisted unremittingly in their attacks, they were also able to use up the energy from the crystals. Li Shuer was planning on this method. From what she saw, Valiant Martial Manor did not have any array master. So even if there was an array, its power shouldn't be that strong. For those guards to attack together, she deduced that it should break down within a few attempts. However, out of her expectations, even though her guards had surrounded the array and continuously attacked it from day till night, they were not able to break down the array at all. Li Shuer frowned and started feeling anxious. This is too freaky. Could this array be left down from by Lu Feng? How could it be so solid? Men, go to the Crown Prince and borrow all of his golden scale guards. Before day breaks, I must break down this array and drag the little slut out. A total of 2 small teams of golden scale guards were deployed, and all of them surrounded the array that Huang Yueli set up and attacked it through the night. It was only at the break of dawn when the array let out a soft humming sound. Li Shuer had persisted for the entire night, and her eyes were starting to turn red. But she had not been willing to leave a single step. She had yet to see Huang Yueli's doom, so how could she give up halfway? The result was the array was finally showing signs of breakdown. She immediately jumped for joy. Quick, quick, quick! Keep up the good work. This array is going to break down any time now. Following that, Li Shuer's glance turned sinister. Byra Oli, just you wait and see. You made me expend so much effort. When I lay my hands on you, if I don't slowly torture you, it would not appease my hatred. Within the array, the red mist in the entire room was slowly turning lighter, and the scorching temperature was slowly descending. The raging energy slowly turned docile as it surrounded Huang Yueli. With her in the middle and in the dark room, it emitted a light red glow. You can also listen on. Little Phoenix, who was resting on the window sill, suddenly awoke in shock as he looked towards Huang Yueli's direction with a pleasantly surprised expression. Female devil can really be more perverted. She actually managed to absorb the 7-grade magical beast core. And what's more, it's done within such a short amount of time. From the time that Huang Yueli had crushed the last magical beast core, it had only been a full day. But this speed was extremely shocking. Not only was her absorption speed fast, the minor internal injuries that she had incurred due to the explosive fire attributed energy was also starting to heal. At this moment, the water in the bathtub had already dried up. Huang Yueli stood up and draped a long robe over her and immediately sat cross-legged on the ground. She absorbed all the energy and directed it to her dantian, flushing through all the meridians in her body, and when all the profound energy exploded, it almost split open all her meridians. Huang Yueli clenched her teeth and persevered, and after the last wave of profound energy died down, she broke through the bottleneck. She had finally successfully broke through to the 2nd-degree realm. Upon seeing that, Little Phoenix could finally rest his heart at ease. His master should have successfully advanced. However, even though she had successfully advanced, but Huang Yueli didn't stop there. Her flame spirit physique was like a vortex that absorbs fire-attributed profound energy, and it swept in all the surrounding profound energy, and the energy consolidated within her dantian had not stopped impacting her meridians. Huang Yueli felt that she could not stop herself, and under the impact of the profound energy, she continued to advance. Advance further. Defensive profound realm, 1st level. 2nd level. 3rd level. Just like the previous advancement, she easily broke through several small realms. The minute she broke through the defensive profound realm 4th level, her process gradually started to slow down. Because at this crucial moment, a sudden change happened. An eerie hum started to sound. A carved inscription array pattern outside the study room suddenly revealed itself. The entire room started to shake along with it. Little Phoenix raised his head and asked questioningly, "What happened? Is it because the energy emitted from the crushed magical beast core was too much, so it's causing this array to collapse soon?" But before he could come out with a conclusion, another hum blared. This round, the noise was more intense than the previous, and the tremor within the room had increased. Hum. Hum. The tremors and noise continuously sounded, and the rays from the array pattern kept flashing and became weaker and weaker. Little Phoenix knew something was not right and quickly flew to the windowsill as he looked outwards. At one glance, his big mo eyes grew rounder and his chubby face turned pale. What the such a thing is really happening? Female devil, someone is attacking your array. And from the looks of it, your array is not going to last any longer. However, there wasn't any trace of fluster on Huang Yueli's face. Truth be told, she looked exactly the same as earlier. Her eyes were tightly shut and her hands were folded in front of her chest, as she had on a peaceful expression while she led the profound energy within her body. The movement of the profound energy was extremely smooth, and within a short while, she broke through another level. Defensive Profound Realm 4th level. Just as she broke though that instance, another intense tremor came through. Little Phoenix's expression looked really bad. A worried and helpless face looked from the window to Huang Yueli, totally not knowing what he should do. You can also listen on. The array collapsing was only a matter of time. Looking at the severity of the tremors, it would probably not last much longer. However, it was a crucial timing for Huang Yueli's advancement. All the effort that she had put in for the past few days was all for this short amount of time now. She must put all her efforts at this moment to break through. Otherwise, the excessive fire attributed profound energy within her body may reverse and backflow into her dantian. When that happened, the only result would bound to be either severely injured or even worse, death. That was why Little Phoenix didn't dare to make a single sound to remind her. Even if it was only a tiny speck of disturbance that would cause her attention to be diverted, it would not only cause her advancement to fail, it would also result in backlash and causing her to suffer from internal injury. As the array pattern grew weaker, Little Phoenix was burning with anxiety as he kept talking to and fro the window, praying inside his heart. Female devil, you must put all your efforts into it. Let's hope your array would be able to hold on a little longer, at least until you have successfully completed all your advancement. Huang Yueli kept her eyes shut as the profound energy within her kept swirling around. Defensive Profound Realm 5th level. In between the rumbles and tremors, she had advanced to another level. In actual fact, she wasn't totally unaware of what was happening on the outside. On the contrary, she was brimming full of profound energy. Her soul trace powered up along with the brimming energy within her, hence, it became much sharper and powerful than usual. Hence, from the first time the array was being attacked, she had already felt it. However, the attack power was initially minutely small, which wouldn't pose any damage to the array, so she didn't bother to pay any attention to it. But a few hours later, the attack power suddenly grew stronger, and it caused a substantial loss of energy to the array. But Huang Yueli had already entered the critical timing for her advancement, hence, she could not stop the process at all. No matter what happened, she must complete the advancement first. Huang Yueli was an experienced practitioner and knew perfectly well that the current situation she was facing. Instead of being anxious, she was even calmer than usual. Since she was unable to change anything now, then her only choice would be to gather all the energy and try her best to speed up the advancement process. Unnecessary feelings such as anxiety or uneasiness would only cause her heart to be disturbed and affect her advancement speed, which would be the fatal blow. Her heart was as tranquil as water. No matter how powerful the brute force was on the outside, she sat quietly without looking sideways and silently collected her thoughts to enter a self-transcending state. Very quickly, she broke through again. Defensive Profound Realm 6 level. Defensive Profound Realm 7 level. The cultivation level of Huang Yueli at the current moment had impressively surpassed the Crown Prince's peak. When Little Phoenix saw this, he was dazzled. If that arrogant and despotic Bairua Chi found out that the #1 genius, Crown Prince of the South Yu Kingdom, whom she longed to be married to, that his cultivation level was even lower than the trash that she had always looked down on, what would she think? As for the narcissistic crown prince, who had wanted to take in his mistress as a concubine, he should just see his own reflection in his own puddle of piss to see which stock of scallion or garlic he was. At his age, his cultivation could not even be compared to his 14-year-old mistress. What's more, although Huang Yueli's advancement speed had somewhat lessened, but without a doubt, she was still continuing on the advancement. Defensive Profound Realm 8 level. At the same moment when she broke through, a huge boom echoed from the outside of the array. All the array patterns lit up at the same time, and almost immediately, it vanished. The array had collapsed. You can also listen on. Following the collapse of the array, raucous noise spread out from the surroundings. A large group of people rushed into the little courtyard. Little Phoenix knew that if a little child like himself were to appear now, it would seem extremely weird, and hurriedly turned back into a little bird as he flew upwards and hid in a hurry. Besides that, he also made the little vulture hide behind a flower pot. Seventh Princess led her men and strode into Huang Yueli's courtyard, directly entering the study room. Just as she just reached the entrance, she felt a scorching breath blowing against her face. It was obvious that the person inside was indeed cultivating behind closed doors and most probably had already reached an extremely crucial moment. On seeing this, Seventh Princess was both glad and envious. Glad because she felt that she had come at the right timing, which was such a coincidence. If the little slut was currently in the crucial moment of advancement and she taught her a lesson at this point, Huang Yueli would probably turn into trash. This was really timely help from heavens. Envious was because Huang Yueli's innate gift was really too great. She could actually advance again after such a short amount of time. Crown Prince had mentioned that she was already at Chi Profound Realm 9 level. Then this round's advancement, was it to break through to the Defensive Profound Realm? At such a young age, and she was already a second-stage practitioner? Even at Celestial Light Academy, the #1 academy in the South Sky region where she was currently studying, there weren't many such prodigies. Unfortunately, no matter how much of a genius this lass was, it was useless because she had fallen into her clutches today. Consider it as her bad luck. Anyway, in future, there wouldn't be a genius like her anymore. Furthermore, it will save her efforts. If the Seventh Princess was to personally deal with her, she would only dare to fix her up and not dare to kill her. Just because if her second royal brother had not casted Huang Yueli aside, there was a chance that he may come back for revenge. The situation now was good because if Huang Yueli was crippled or even leading to death because her advancement was being interrupted, this would not be considered as a direct hit from her. So in future, if she wanted to deny, there would always be a way to do so. As Seventh Princess thought of this, she was extremely pleased as she walked in. Byraoli, what big guts you have. Seeing this princess's arrival, you still dare to continue to cultivate? Aren't you going to quickly come and greet me? Huang Yueli knew she was nearby, but she didn't make a single move. Just a bit more. She just needed a bit more time, and she would be able to break through to the Defensive Profound Realm 9 level. Seventh Princess saw that she didn't show any response and couldn't help but gave a chilling snigger. Looks like you're intentionally ignoring this princess. Just a valiant martial manners, miss. You dare to ignore this princess. How should you be punished? Men, take her down now. Li Shuer knew she was at the crucial moment of breakthrough and wasn't able to talk. However, Li Shuer knew from the start that she would not be able to say a single word and was just trying to pin a crime on her. As her hand waved, the two guards behind her immediately responded and prepared to walk over to capture their prey. Li Shuer's face showed a gleeful smile as she waited to see the pathetic expression on Huang Yueli's face. Who knew? The guards had only took 2 steps before they gave out a AI sound, and following that, they sprawled onto the ground. What happened? Li Shuer frowned and turned around displeased. However, just at the moment when she had turned her head, she caught sight of a bundle of fire ray flash past. Following, that was a fit of acute pain. Ah, so hot, so painful. What was that? What exactly was that? Li Shuer covered her face with her hands and screeched out loudly, squatting down. Little Phoenix ducked his head and hid back onto the top of the window ledge. He had wanted to stop the seventh princess earlier when he realized something was amiss, and in desperation, he breathed out a bundle of true phoenix flames, and it sprayed directly onto Li Shuer's face. You can also listen on. True Phoenix Flames was not any ordinary flame. Li Shuer screeched as she used her clothes to extinguish the flame, but was not able to make it go out. All the guards could not be bothered with Huang Yueli and had all crowded around and bid to extinguish the fire on Li Shuer. It went on for quite some time before several water-attributed golden scale guards worked together to put their profound skills to use. Then were they able to extinguish the fire. By now, the skin on Li Shuer's face had already been burnt and the surface had been filled with potholes and looked extremely dreadful. Li Shuer didn't need to use a mirror to know that she already looked terrifying, so she was even more enraged than before. She furiously shouted, "What on earth happened? What was that thing by the side? Pull out quickly." Little Phoenix used its small size to its advantage and flapping its wings, he secretly went one round and hid himself inside a white jade pen container. A bunch of guards searched the entire study room, but was not able to locate it. However, they found the little vulture. Little Vulture received Huang Yueli's order and immediately rushed out. Flapping its wings, giving out whistling cries, it rushed towards the seventh princess's direction. Little Vulture itself had the strength of a third-tier magical beast. The strength of its body and attack power was extremely huge. The only thing lacking was its parents were not by its side while it was growing up. So although it was still young, it did not even know the basics of the innate ability of the white-winged, golden-crested vultures. In this way, its potential was not able to be displayed. Even so, for it to go against this bunch of second-stage practitioners, it was still a big threat. Little Vulture pecked on various people within the crowd, and unexpectedly, the guard were not able to respond in time before they were already knocked down on their backs, as several people were pecked on their faces as it was flowing with blood. However, Little Vulture was still a magical beast. Against a bunch of experienced practitioners, it was still in a disadvantageous position. After the chaotic situation had somewhat settled down, a group of golden scale guards made a simultaneous frontal and rear attack and managed to surround the Little Vulture. Little Vulture threw itself to the left and the right, but were subsequently blocked. Anxiety took over and it was chirping for help as it turned its head to find the Little Phoenix for help. Little Phoenix played dead in the pencil container as it sent out a telepathic message to the Little Vulture. "Zhao Kai, stop calling out for help. Your big brother is currently unable to save himself, so I've left you to be my scapegoat. Take care of yourself. In future when we meet outside, let's pretend that we don't know each other." Although he said that, Little Phoenix was still feeling extremely anxious. Little Vulture had fallen into the hands of the enemy, and what was worse was nothing could stop the seventh princess from interrupting Huang Yueli, and she could immediately make Huang Yueli suffer from heavy injuries and throw up blood. Li Shuer also realized this, and on the burnt and swollen face, she gave out a devious smile. "It's just a stinking bird. Very good. This evening, I shall shed all your feathers and make you into stewed vulture for Heavenly Father and Mother to enjoy. Your Highness is brilliant." The guards immediately licked her boots. Li Shuer sneered coldly as she casted her glance towards Huang Yueli. "Go, capture Bairuoli for this princess now. This time, there should be nothing to block your way. But for safety's sake, all of you go together. Whoever captures her first, this princess will reward you with 1,000 taels." Upon hearing the reward, those guards who had been covered in dirt and grime from the attacks of the Little Vulture immediately recovered their energy, and as they responded positively with a yes, they sprang towards Huang Yueli. Little Phoenix used its wings to cover its face as it cried mournfully in its heart. "Goner, goner, the female devil is a goner this time." You can also listen on. However, just at the instance when the guards were pouncing towards Huang Yueli, a blinding red ray burst out from Huang Yueli, who had been sitting in a lotus position. The ray was extremely dazzling, and in an instant, no one was able to open their eyes. Everyone subconsciously blocked their eyes, and some of them couldn't help but shed tears. It took quite some time before the blinding ray gradually weakened. Leishwearer was the first to respond as the expression on her face changed. Damn it, this slut actually managed to advance successfully. Why is her luck so good? Damn it, what are you guys still staring into empty space for? Quickly capture this little slut. A few guards rubbed their eyes, and immediately they turned over and pounced towards Huang Yueli's direction. Huang Yueli's eyes were originally shut tight, but at this moment, she suddenly opened her eyes, and beneath it manifested a cold glare. The guards had not been able to touch her, yet, as they felt a surge of exploding profound energy sweeping towards them. Some of them were already flying out by this surge of power as they spat out blood in midair. Blood from midair drew out an arc as it spilled along the way. It was only after they crashed into the wall of the study room and making a huge dent in the wall before they fell onto the ground. The event that had happened was too sudden and was completely not following the normal trail of thoughts. At that moment, everyone was stunned. The entire study room was dead silent. Leishwearer was stunned momentarily before her brows were raised in anger as she furiously retorted, "By Ruoli, you actually dared to hurt this princess's guards. What punishment should you deserve?" Huang Yueli swept her a glance before she frowned and replied, "Who are you?" Leishwearer fumed. "By Ruoli, what act are you playing? We had not met for barely a year, and you're pretending not to know this princess? No matter how you pretend, don't even think about escaping the crime of profanity." Huang Yueli innocently replied, "I really don't know you. Don't believe me. Ask my servants in my household. Such an ugly person like you. Normally, I won't even let them enter the manor. What would happen if you scare the little kids? That would be bad." Leishwearer was taken aback, and she realized that her face had been burnt from a bundle of flame from God knows where. So she had a horrifying face now. Although practitioners may suffer injuries on their faces, but the difference between them and normal people are they tend to recover much faster than non-practitioners. But she still had to wear this ugly, ghost-like face for quite a bit of time. She was one of the top beauties in the South Yu Kingdom and was the idol of many prestigious young masters. So every day before she leaves her room, she would carefully dress herself up, and there hadn't been a single instance where she was ever so ugly. When she thought of this, Leishwearer's rage intensified. It was all this little slut's fault. She really deserved to die 10,000 times. Leishwearer angrily retorted, "By Ruoli, isn't this all you're doing? If it wasn't for you who used such a sinister method to hurt this princess's face, would I need to look like this now? Your methods are so sinister. It's no wonder you're a venomous woman." Huang Yueli's lips curled into a smile, treating her rage as nothing. She calmly seated herself on the seat of the host and casually lifted up a pot of water as she poured herself a cup of water and slowly drank it. "I say, this is my home. You're the one who unfathomably came over, and you're trying to pin the blame on my head for your God knows where face injury came from? What does it have to do with me? Are you a swindler who came to swindle money? And you still dare to claim that you're a what princess? With such messy hair and dirty face, with the attitude of a shrewd, shouting abuse in the streets, you're no different from a roadside female beggar. Still dare to claim you're a princess? Are you here to make a fool of yourself?" You can also listen on. Just from one look at the wound on Leishwearer's face, and Huang Yueli already knew that it must be the doing of Wang Kai. In her heart, she secretly gave that little thing a thumbs up, but her face showed an expression of being slandered as she taunted Leishwearer disdainfully. As expected, Seventh Princess was infuriated by her and could not say a single word. Outrageous! Seventh Princess is the legal child of our Empress and the blood sister of the Crown Prince. Their status are of noble birth. Who are you to babble gibberish and besmirch them? Seventh Princess's guards were unable to see her being besmirched and retorted sternly. Huang Yueli showed an enlightened expression. "So you're the Seventh Princess? As I was saying, you must be my second sister's friend. No wonder you also like to paint your face in a gaudy look. Is this year's fashion?" Li Shui'er almost spat out blood, and as she ferociously stared daggers at Huang Yueli, and finally she snapped. Byrooli, you're simply seeking death. Do you think that you've just advanced, and this princess can't do anything to you? Humph! This princess shall let you see the difference in level between you and a real second-degree realm practitioner. Saying that, she pulled out a long snake-shaped sword from her waist and stabbed towards Huang Yueli's direction. Li Shui'er was the core disciple of the Celestial Light Academy, and she had already advanced to the second-degree realm in the previous year. Right now, her cultivation was currently at the Defensive Profound Realm 3rd level. She totally could not tell that Huang Yueli's advancement had directly reached the Defensive Profound Realm 9 level. The reason was because at the Peach Blossom Banquet that was held more than 10 days ago, Huang Yueli had just reached the Qi Profound Realm 9 level. This was something that was known to all because she had managed in such a short amount of time to leap across an entire realm. This was not just freakish, but rather to talk big without a manuscript. Li Shui'er had naturally thought that Huang Yueli had just broken through the Qi Profound Realm and advanced to the Defensive Profound Realm 1st level. Even so, she felt that Huang Yueli's luck was just too good since she was able to break through to the second-degree realm at such a young age. Her future was limitless. Even among the 6th grade talents, she had outstanding luck and strength. It was exactly because of this that Li Shui'er wanted to use this opportunity to throttle her future threat in the cradle before it was too late. Li Shui'er's sword dance was like a breeze as the snake sword shone out some chilling shimmer as it caused one to be dazzled by it. As a direct disciple of a 4th-ranked armament master, Li Shui'er's longsword was outstanding, and it was a 4th-tier lower-grade armament. This was extremely rare for a second-degree realm practitioner to be holding on to such an armament. Even if it was the crown prince whose cultivation was much higher than his own sister, he was not able to afford a 4th-tier armament. Even when he wanted to purchase a set of 3rd-tier profound armor in the previous auction, he was severely played around by Huang Yueli. Not only was the sword an excellent item, the swordplay that she was exhibiting was a profound skill that only the core disciples of the Celestial Light Academy could learn. The Shadow Snake's swordplay. Once exhibited, its might was astounding. In that one instance, it had completed 18 thrusts. And within that 18 thrusts, only one thrust was a killer move. The remaining 17 thrusts were just fake moves. Once one had been blinded by the shimmer of the sword, causing a mistake in the judgment, one's throat would be strapped by the sword. Huang Yueli's eyes shone as she smiled. This profound skill is rather extraordinary. The sword should be refined specially for this profound skill, right? Not a simple task. Finally, I have met a practitioner with some qualifiable skills in the South Yu Kingdom. This swordplay certainly looks impressive. You can also listen on. Although she said such words, but the expression on her face didn't display any signs of distress. Even while she was commenting on Li Shui'er's swordplay, it felt like she was a renowned senior giving pointers to her junior. Li Shui'er was fuming with rage between gritted teeth after she heard such fleeting comments, cursing Huang Yueli inside her heart. Pretense. Continue to pretend some more. She coldly sneered. Your talking seems clear and logical. If you have the capability, try to avoid my thrust. Looking at you standing at the same spot, aren't you unable to avoid it? Take my move. The distance between them were not too far apart, and as Li Shui'er continued with her swordplay, the snake sword had already extended its reach as it thrusted towards Huang Yueli's chest. Huang Yueli didn't avoid it, and even her feet didn't shuffle a single step. Li Shui'er's heart lighted up. This little slut could only use her mouth and talk. In actual fact, she didn't have enough ability to avoid the move, simply looking for death. Today, she shall let her know her power. Li Shui'er's smile slowly spread across her face, but at the next moment, the smile that congealed against that reddish-black face looked extremely hilarious. Because when her sword thrusted to a position just 3 inches before it could reach Huang Yueli, it totally stopped in its tracks. Li Shui'er lowered her head and found Huang Yueli had stretched out two long, slender fingers, firmly holding her snake sword in between her two fingers. Li Shui'er turned pale from the overwhelming shock, as she had never expected Huang Yueli to be able to stop her long sword. She had, in that instance, struck out 18 thrusts. A normal same-level practitioner would not be able to see clearly, what's more, predict accurately which thrust was the killer move. Even if one had predicted accurately that one thrust had been instilled with the full strength of her profound energy, the sharp penetrating thrust was not something that could be stopped, unless the other party exceeded her by several realm levels. Otherwise, who would dare to use their fingers to block this move? It was absolutely certain that all her fingers would be shaved off on the spot. Li Shui'er would never believe this. However, the fact was placed right in front of her eyes, so she didn't have any choice to not believe it. Her hand subconsciously increased the strength and impounded her entire profound energy into the sword, hoping that it would strike towards Huang Yueli. Alas, no matter how she tried, the snake sword was firmly gripped in between Huang Yueli's hand. The two slender and fair fingers, skin as white and delicate like snow, looked like it had never required to handle any heavy workload. But these seemingly powerless fingers at this moment seemed to contain 10 million pounds of strength, totally indestructible. Li Shui'er was now experiencing true fear. She realized that the young lady standing in front of her, whom she had treated like trash, held tremendous power, and it was she herself who was unable to compare with her accomplishments. Li Shui'er's wrist turned and gave up thrusting inwards. Instead, she was using her strength to pull back the sword outwards. Now, she did not harbor any further thoughts of thrusting Huang Yueli. Tatter, she only wanted to take back her sword. This was a fourth-tier profound armament. She absolutely cannot lose it. No matter how much her master valued her, it was impossible that he would refine another one for her. However, how would Huang Yueli let her claim back the sword just like that? Li Shui'er tried hard to pull back the sword, even to the extent of using all her strength until her face flushed through and through. However, she was still unable to pull it out. She spoke out embitteredly. "Bairuoli, let go. Are you intending to snatch this princess's sword?" Huang Yueli smiled lightly. "Seventh princess, please don't distort the truth deliberately. This sword was sent to my hands willingly by you, and now you're regretting it? Keep on dreaming." You can also listen on that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.